Race fans, it's time for the most famous words in motorsports.
Drivers, start your engine!
Strap on your helmets and rev up your engines for Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. 2 hours of local dirt track racing. Ed Lamberton touches on local racing in and around the area. Wheel People is brought to you by Four Corner Tire, Elmo's Auto Body, Sampson Motor Car, Tanner's Lumber, and Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road. Now, with your racing news, fast Ed Lamberton. Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Sampson Motor Car, Amsterdam, New York. Four Corner Tire, Elmo's Speed and Supply, Fonda Speedway Memories Facebook pages, Adirondack Harley Davidson, where the mountain meets the road, and Dairy Frost. Thank you for tuning in to Wheel People with Ed Lamberton. Now back to our show. Good to go.
And a good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Monday night edition of Wheel People. I'm your host, Ed Lamberton, and for the next couple of hours, we'll be talking about the great sport of auto racing here in the great Northeast. I don't think we're going to venture out of it tonight too much. Well, we have to mention the great run by our own Spraker resident. Third place finish in the truck series by Stuart Friesen. Had the lead early on and got into the wall just a tad, but still had a great race. Hey, when you're racing with Kyle Busch in a truck series event against Kyle and his other trucks, and you had him covered, more or less. It was a pretty good night. I know there was you could hear the people hollering through their open windows on Friday nights around the Northeast, that's for sure. Great run, Stewie. We know that the win is getting closer and closer. Certainly a great team that Chris Larson has put together for Stewie, and they are getting the job done, and it won't be long before he'll have his first Truck Series feature win, that is for sure. So I guess we did venture out a little ways, out to Kansas. But Kyle Busch, everybody knows, is my guy. So it was kind of interesting when they had their little set to, but still everybody came out right. Nobody crashed or whatever. And I saw a lot of comments about Crybaby Kyle and all that stuff, but whatever. It was what it was. It was great racing, and it's so good to have Stuart in a competitive truck on the series, that is for sure. Okay, quickly we'll run it back what happened. Oh, we've got to tell you what's going to happen tonight, actually. He says if he remembers, and we'll remind him if he doesn't. We'll call on the phone here. But Crazy Kenny Martin will be with us. He'll head things off at 7:30. He is, of course, the defending champion at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway, and picked up his first win of the season in the second Pro Stock race of the year on Friday night. And Crazy Kenny will be here with us first up. Then we'll kind of switch our hats a little bit and go to the promoter side of the deal. Last week, of course, talking with Lyle DeVore, promoter at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway and track manager down at Lebanon Valley Speedway. Tonight we'll spend a little time with the Fonda promoter, Pete Demetrazik. And Pete and his whole family have been operating Fonda Speedway for a couple of seasons now. And I don't know if you ever get everything accomplished. Rick Lucia was there for 16 years, and he said there were still things that he didn't get done that he would have liked to have accomplished. But it's going to be a good, fun chat with Pete and what he looks forward to for the rest of the season. Hopefully better weather, that's for sure. And then we'll wrap things up with the entrepreneur who has turned a very successful business or a job into a very successful business, along with his partner Kyle Hoffman and Eric Mack. David Constantino, who picked up the win in the Great Sportsman or Modified Sportsman up at the Glen Ridge Motorsports Park on Sunday night, will be here with us to wrap up the show. And we want to talk to Dave about his many hats that he wears now, being an entrepreneur, running their own business, doing a great job. DKM cars are winning features with different drivers, and they are coming out more and more each and every week. And I believe, I don't know, well, we'll talk to Dave, but I think up until Volusia, that's the last time actually I had a chance to talk to Dave, they had, I believe, 12 race cars built and out of the shop. And I know there's a few more have left since then. And, of course, young Derek McGrew, the 10-year-old, if that doesn't even make any sense. Is that right? 10-year-old picked up another win. He won the limited sportsman event at Fonda a couple of weeks ago. Picked up his first win at Glen Ridge Motorsports Park in the limited division, and he has driven a DKM, and of course we talked about Adam McCullough traveling down to Bridgeport a month ago and picking up the win at Bridgeport with his DKM, and of course Stuart Friesen, several of his 5 or 4 wins this season have been with a DKM car. I think all but one, maybe. Well, we'll check with Dave. I'm sure he'll know. Anyhow, so very successful DKM, Damn Kid Motorsports, and we'll be talking to one of the founders of that fine organization down along the river, just across from the racetrack in Fonda, New York, and Dave Constantino. So that's the structure and the schedule. Hopefully, crazy Kenny Martin, Pete Demetrazik, and Dave Constantino, who can be crazy sometimes himself, as far as what kind of hat he wears. You know, I didn't realize I just said that, but Dave is a man of many hats. So, now in real life as well as in the race car, that's for sure. Quickly going back to last Friday night in the modified big block and small block divisions, and it was a short week because a majority of the Saturday night tracks were rained out because of rain. Yeah, rained out because of rain. That makes sense. Rained out because of the just crappy weather we had here on Saturday. Rain and maybe not rain, but cold. Just, yeah, it was a good night to stay home. That was for sure. And they did much of that. That is for sure. Over at or down at the Lernerville Speedway on Friday night, Rex King Jr. over Jim Weiler Jr. and Dave Murdoch. The podium finish there at Big Diamond Speedway on Friday night. Craig Von Doren, CBD, picking up another win there. A multi-time champion, and I don't know if he's hit 100 yet, but he's got to be close. Ryan Godown finishing in runner-up spot, and Dwayne Howard in third. Jeff Strunk fourth. I just had to throw that in because between Strunk, Howard, and Von Doren, those three guys have dominated that Pennsylvania Big Diamond Grandview circuit for several decades. Let's put it that way. A little closer to home, the Aston Motorsports Park got their show in the books, and it was Mike Mahaney just grabbing the lead in the late stages from Andy Bicchetti. Of course, Bicchetti, a former track champion at Afton. And Bicchetti starting up towards the front, and Mahaney was able to find a way by and picked up the win. Chad Cook was third, Darwin Green fourth, and Mitch Gibbs rounding out the top five. And we got a notification from Afton yesterday, I believe it was, or possibly, yeah, I guess it was yesterday, that Afton, who did, like a lot of promoters, put down a new surface this year to make racing better. Turned out to be not so much. It was extremely rough and lots of car carnage as far as damage to shocks and all kinds of drive lines and whatever. So the promoter, Ron Ford, has decided to rip it up. He's taken the new surface that he put down last fall and pushing it over in the corner, and maybe they'll try to work it throughout the season. But going back to what they had last year. So he wanted to make things better, didn't, and he was man enough to admit he screwed up. And, well, he didn't screw up, but apparently the surface wasn't what he wanted. And so Afton will be racing on its old surface starting next Friday night. At the Accord Speedway, also on Friday night, Jimmy Wells picked up the win over Mike Rickey and Anthony Perego, Danny Creedon, and Tommy Johnson rounding out the top 5. Up north in Old Canada at the RPM Speedway, it was David Hebert picking up the win over Steve Bernard, Alan Theron, and Paul St. Sauveur. At the, they have twin 40s. No, that's interesting. I remember the days, now I'm showing my age, Fonda used to run twin events for, I think it was almost the whole season, and I think Lou Lazaro won the biggest share of them. But Steve Bernard won the second event, finishing second and third in the two. That's good for him. Sebastian Gorgnon and Matthew Desjardins picking up the top 3 spots on the second of 2 40-lap features at the RPM Speedway on Friday night. At the Merrittville Speedway, also on Friday night, Matt Williamson picking up the win over Chad Brockman and Pete Bicknell. Old Peter, the old boy is still Mr. Small Block, still racing them small blocks on Friday nights at the Merrittville Speedway. Boyd McTavish and Ryan Susi, the top 5. And then we move into Saturday night action, which was very, very limited. Saturday night at the Land of Legends, Raceway Park. Peter Britton coming off a big win on Friday night at Albany Saratoga. We'll get to that in just a moment. So Peter sweeping the weekend at his 2 regular tracks. Friday night, Albany Saratoga, winning one of the feature events, the regular feature event. And coming home with a win at Canandaigua. Peter started up front and led the entire event. Jimmy Phelps made a good charge, starting back in the field to finish a strong second, though distant second. Justin Hares was third. Matt Shepard, who has owned the place pretty much the last several seasons, had to settle for 4th on Saturday night. And Magic Shoes Jr., Max McLaughlin, picking up the top 5 there. And they were running about 20 modifieds at the Big Block Modifieds at the Land of Legends. We did chat with, texted Pete this afternoon. We tried to get Pete Britton to come on the show after sweeping the weekend. He had to beg out. He is, of course, they are doing, which he noted and was noted, and most of you know, that Maynard Troyer, the famous racer and car builder who started Troyer Engineering many moon ago, back in the 70s, passed away this past weekend, and our prayers go out to his family and the whole Troyer family, of which Pete, of course, is a member. He does work at Troyer Engineering in between working on his own race cars, and so Pete said he would be tied up most of this week with arrangements and whatever. So he said he would love to be on next week, so we will do that. So we'll talk to Peter Britton next week, the defending champion at Albany Saratoga Speedway, and a 2-time winner this weekend with his new TD. What are they up to? 5 now? We'll find out next week when we talk to Pete. So also on Friday night, the Fulton Speedway in their first, well, I don't know if we could, I guess we could call it the first regular show and regular numbers of cars. I believe they had 16 358 modifieds. Remember Fulton and Utica Rome switching to the small block modifieds this year, trying to get some of the sportsman guys to move up. And, of course, you remember we talked to Tim Fuller last week about that, and he said he was and he was actually at Utica Rome on Sunday, but that was a 358 modified dirt car event, so it did pay more than the regular Sunday night purse at Utica Rome. Fuller voicing his opinion about dropping the price of the motors $10,000 and dropping the purse $1,000. That doesn't quite add up to him all the way through, and we'll continue on that theory throughout the year, talking to different people who have decided to go to a small block or had one, and now they have another place to race them on Sunday or Saturday nights. But anyway, Fulton, for the first night when they had to compete against some of the small block tracks in Canada who were not open last week, they had 26 cars. They dropped about 10, so I think it was down to about 16 cars here. I did a quick count this morning, so I may be off by one or two. But anyhow, at the Fulton Speedway, it was Fulton Speedway's own Larry White picking up the feature event win. I believe Larry finished second last week. Tom Sears finishing in second. Tim Sears, who won last week, finished third. So it looks like it's going to be between the Sears and the Whites, and Pat Ward, who was fourth, and Jordan McCready rounding out the top five. So it looks like Jordan is going to make Fulton his Saturday night track, carrying on the McCready legacy, as his dad and his brother both had raced at Fulton. His dad raced as a regular there many years ago. Ronnie Davis III would be the first, I believe, sportsman guy who's moved up this year in sixth. So, it's early yet, but 16 cars for the first night of the guys you're going to get every week. Not too shabby, I believe. It'll work. Delaware International Speedway on Saturday night was Bobby Wilkins over Ted Rice and Jordan Watson. Then at the Brockville Speedway, it was Luke Whitaker over Danny O'Brien and Corey Wheeler. The top three, Mario Leclerc, Ryan Arbonat, who was at Fonda Speedway for a couple of weeks, back at his home track in Brockville on Saturday nights. At the Airborne Park Speedway, kicking off their second race of the season, Chris Robbie, who won the week before, had to settle for runner-up spot. It was Steve Bernier picking up the win. Todd Stone finishing in third. Matt Woodruff and Danny Bedeau rounding out the top five. They are down on cars a little bit. Again, with the Canadian tracks opening up, they had a good field of cars there last week. This week, however, dropping down. I got 14, 15 cars. So Airborne will be looking for some more small blocks as the season goes on. And then, of course, yesterday, Utica Rome Speedway finally kicking off its 2018 season, and it turned out to be a barn burner. Now, we've had three good races. I mean, great races. And, we didn't count any of them down 11 Valley because I haven't seen how close they were, but we had that tremendous race between Matt Shepard and Tim McCready over at the Albany-Saratoga Speedway for the big opener there, Bring It. And McCready winning that with Shepard in second. Last night, of course, we had Matt Shepard and Jeremy Wilder. Fort Plains' own Jeremy Wilder, who is one of the hot shoes at Fonda Speedway, and formerly Glen Ridge, and now on Albany-Saratoga on Friday nights. But Jeremy started up front, and he and Shepard battled. Shepard got by and led for the majority of the event. However, Jeremy got by him with just a few laps to go and looked like he may be able to hold off Super Matt. However, not to be, as Shepard was able to grab the lead with just 2 or 3 laps to go and picked up the win. But Jeremy Wilder has nothing to hold his head down about. A great run in runner-up spot with the best in the business in the 358 divisions there. Matt Williamson, who we saw put on a clinic there last year during Super Dirt Week when he came from half a lap behind to go by both Matt Shepard and Stuart Friesen to win that event last fall. But Matt coming home with a third-place finish. Lightning Larry White after the big win on Saturday night, coming home in fourth on Sunday last night. And Billy Dunn, who we haven't heard a lot about. Billy's picked up another team, not running for his family anymore, but has a strong run with that car, finishing up in the 5th spot. Jimmy Phelps, Tim Fuller, Rocky Warner, Mark Johnson, and Eric Rudolph rounding out the top 10. So a great field of small block cars on hand. Bobby Varon making the trip out with a Palmer 76, finishing just out of the top 10 after starting deep in the field. Mike Maresco, who we had on the show last week, who has gone late model racing, of course, living out in Ohio, took a weekend off and came home for Mother's Day, I'm assuming. That's just my assumption, but I think I'm right. Came home for Mother's Day and figured, well, geez, I'm in New York State, and I got some cars, and Fuller keeping my seat warm, so we got small blocks. We'll come down, and Mike did run in the small block event at Utica Rome yesterday, finishing out of the top 15. And but good to see him back in the New York State for a while. And Jimmy Cottrell traveling out with his small block and having some problems and dropping out early. Jordan McCready, also the first car out, finishing dead last. But Rocky Warner, again, in the top 10, this time with a 358. Of course, on Saturday night, he was up at, or Friday night, he was up at the Can-Am Speedway and finished third. Here, let me back this up somewhere here. I missed that. I must have thrown that page away, but Rocky making the trip to break the car in and get ready for the 358 Super Duke Series event at Utica on Sunday, and coming home a strong third, or was it fourth? Anyway, he was in the top 5, so good for Rocky. He's getting closer every week. A couple of top 10 finishes with the big block at the Fonda Speedway, and I know he's chomping at the bit to get some more races under his belt. So that was one of the reasons why they headed up to Can-Am last Friday night. So then, as we said, a little closer to home, on Friday night, Albany-Saratoga Speedway, the only local track to get the show in until last night's Glenridge Motorsports Park show and the Utica Rome. But Saturday was a washout here pretty much throughout the Great Northeast, with the exception of Canandaigua, as we said. There was 2 modified features, as we talked to Lyle DeVore last week. Last Monday night. In that held-over feature event, Ronnie Johnson, who had started up in the front row, stayed there for the entire event, but fast closing. Matt DiLorenzo looking sharp on Friday night, coming home with a runner-up spot. They passed champion Mark Johnson, who was trying to get back on his feet after a somewhat off last year. I mean, Mark was has been a very great competitor over at Albany-Saratoga for many seasons, winning the track championship, and struggled a little bit last year. Still had some great runs, but third place finish the second week out. Not too shabby. Brett Hearn, of course, a multi-time winner, finishing in fourth, and Peter Britton rounding out the top 5. Willie Decker, Jesse Mueller, Elmo Reckner, and Bodie Bellinger, Jimmy Cottrell in the rained out event from a week ago. Regular show, it was Peter Britton, so Peter having a pretty good, the defending champion at Albany-Saratoga. Last year it was August before Pete picked up a win. He's already got that done in May. So Pete with a first and a fifth. Had a great night. Brett Hearn, pretty good night as well for the old gentleman. As we'll say, we'll bust him a little. He's not as old as I am, but Brett is the certainly the senior star, that's for sure. Brett finishing second in the nightcap event with a fourth, so with some good runs there. Rich Galata, one of the better finishes Rich has had at Albany-Saratoga. Been a regular on and off, and been there for certainly in the series race, but Rich coming home with a third place finish. Elmo Reckner finishing fourth, so Elmo 2 top 10 finishes. Jimmy Cottrell also a 5th and a 10th. Mark Johnson 6th on the regular show after a 3rd, so the top 10 is pretty much the same. They just kind of shuffled around a little bit. Kenny Tremont, who had not broken into the had some issues in the first event, finished 19th and broke in for 7th. Matt DiLorenzo a 2nd place and an 8th. Demetrius Drelos, the youngster, finishing in 9th, and Neil Stratton, also another youngster, second-generation driver, finishing in the 10th spot there. RJ finishing 12th after picking up the win in the first event. And Jessica Zemkin making an appearance on Friday night as well, while Stewie was out beating the truck and getting a great finish. Jess was getting some lap times and getting her feel back for the open wheel modifieds after many years of the sprint cars, and now just getting her dirt legs back with the full-bodied modifieds. In the sportsman on Friday night, it was Chris Johnson picking up the win, led all 25 laps. Connor Cleveland, a winner at Albany Saratoga already this season, finishing up in the runner-up spot. Dave Schilling, who we've had Connor and David both on the show a couple of weeks ago, finishing second and third, respectively. Dave Constantino, who we'll talk to at the end of the show, finishing in fourth, so a good weekend for Dave. And Daryl Nutting rounding out the top five. Jason Gray, Tim Hartman Jr., Mike Coffey, Robert Blubeck, and Chad Edwards rounding out the top 10. And again, Bucco cars, 35 modifieds, 30 sportsmen, 30-some limited sportsmen. That one was won by Michael Wagner. And the Pro Stocks, and we'll be talking to this gentleman momentarily. And I don't know, I can't hear him breathing yet. Or Ken, are you there? Okay, so we may have to remind him. Crazy Kenny Martin pick up the win. Josh Coonrod is second on Friday night. Kim Duell was third. Norm Lobier and Brandon Gray, Walt Barnell, Dan Older, Justin Corbin, Robbie Etman, and Brandon Aming rounding out the top 10. So Aming with a win the previous week, finishing in 10th. So he's off to a good, solid start of the season. Randy Miller won the street stocks. John Bennett won the four cylinders. And as we said last night, and it's been a hectic day at the shop again. And no excuse. I had the winners, of course, as we said, Derek McGrew Jr. winning the limited sportsman. Dave Constantino winning the modified sportsman feature at Glen Ridge Motorsports Park. And old Cousin Luke picking up the win in the Pro Stock feature event. Still, we will hopefully wrap up our promoter swing here a little bit with Mike Perillo and Ray Severin next week, trying to cover all of our promoters in the area. And if Kenny, if you're out there listening, give us the call. It's 518-952-2944. And I know I said I'd remind you on the air, but I'll send you a quickie here in just a moment. So we're waiting for crazy Kenny Martin to grab a moment and pick up his phone here. Let me see. As we said, there was a sadness in the air again this week. It seems like every week we've had some bad news here. Of course, our everyone's good friend Bernie Heald the week ago, and then Maynard Troyer, certainly a name that most of you have known from time to time. Of course, everybody has heard of Troyer Race Cars, and he was Troyer Race Cars when it got started, that's for sure. Let me see. We'll do this. Okay. There we go. Yep. Okay. Done. Anyhow, it was a, I don't know if there's a lot of the older generation that had a chance to watch Maynard Troyer. Of course, he competed at the Albany Saratoga Speedway, naturally, back in the old asphalt days, and also over at the Stafford Motor Speedway, Thompson, all of the place. And, you know, he made his, got his name on the asphalt. And then about, I think it was 1990, or no, 40. Yeah, 84. 84. It's been a long day. 84, when the famous mud buses came along. Of course, Alan Johnson was the tabbed as the house driver of the mud bus. And I guess, I'm not quite sure yet. We'll have to, when we talk to Pete Britton next week, we'll have to find out if they came up with the mud bus themselves or somebody came across that deal. But obviously, Maynard, coming from the asphalt realm, and always had immaculate looking race cars. In fact, Ryan Priest drives a carbon copy. Oh, we're getting buzzed here by the local pilots there. The beautiful looking number 6 that Maynard Troyer drove, and as we said, it's been kind of a tribute to him that Ryan Priest, of course, who has been very successful through the modified, and now also moving into the in Xfinity series, and Ryan has done a great job of moving along. Hopefully that somebody will give Crazy Kenny a jab, and we'll get going with with him. But we talked about Mother Nature is just throwing a curveball at everyone, and everybody's behind. And of course, our good friend Rob Hazer with the King of Dirt series has had the first 2 of his sportsman shows canceled. The one at Glen Ridge 2 weeks ago, and then again on Saturday night at the Fonda Speedway. It was a tough road to hoe for everyone on Saturday with cold and wet, crummy weather. I don't know what most of the rest of you did, but probably trying to look at the TV and see what what was there to keep it going. We wanted to talk about the upcoming events at some of the speedways, and I say we'll get with Pete here in just a little bit, but I think Crazy has gone crazy and is out of there. But talk about weather relation. We'll talk to those guys hopefully next week with Ray Severin and Mike Perillo, who have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort and money and got some pretty hefty equipment up at the little track on the hill, and they seem to be struggling Mother Nature more than anything. The car counts are certainly a concern, and there's been various things talked about why Glen Ridge struggles from time to time for car counts, and really I think it comes down to the fact that there's several racetracks all within a short period of distance. In fact, I was just looking the other day at one of the websites. He lists 20, I think there's 21 Friday night racetracks in the greater Northeast. I mean, of course, that goes as far as south as Delaware and as far as north as Canada, obviously. But, basically within a 3 to 4 hour circle, there are 21 Friday tracks there. I think there's 22 or 23 Saturday night tracks. These are all just modified big block or small block dirt tracks. So, there's a lot of options for the race fans and for some of the fans who have become couch potatoes to sit home or sit on the internet. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on your situation. I know there's a lot of folks that do try to catch what they can on the internet, and this has certainly caused a concern from a lot of promoters on how to handle it. There's no way you can literally arrest everybody that's got a cell phone and taking pictures, but I can understand their angst about all the stuff. My deal is you need to bring somebody to the races. I think if you come to the races yourself and kind of explain what's going on to a new timer or somebody that hadn't been there in a while, that they would rather come and sit in the stands rather than watch on TV because that or on the internet or on their phone or whatever it is. Granted, there are people you cannot get to every racetrack. I understand that, and it might be easier if you could just whip out your phone and look and see what's going on. But I don't know. I've had this discussion before, but I think if you have to ask some of the promoters, I don't think they're sure either. I think, it can help. I know Glenn Donnelly always said that his deal was that he thought if he made TV shows and made stars out of his guys, that he would get more people in the stands because they'd want to actually come and see him live. And I'm hoping today's people aren't that lazy that they don't want to get out and go to all right, we're going to do this the rough way here and see if you can. Nope. Probably napping somewhere. Yep. Maybe you did.
Hello.
Hey, you gonna call me?
Yeah, I can call you.
All right. All right.
So, maybe in race cars, but I'll call you right now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You'll call you any other number, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, bye. All right. And a true race car driver that he is. Busy working on a race car. Forgot about my knee. But that's pretty easy to do. That is for sure. Okay, so we'll get this back. And so momentarily here, we should have Crazy on the line. Before I go crazy here by myself. We'll see how that goes. See how this all works out here. There we go. I got to see if my my other screen. We have a new some new equipment here, and it's worked out pretty well so far. We've had not too many glitches. We had one at the first go around. It seems to be much better the last couple of weeks. We've had some good comments, and anytime you wanna, anybody can join in here. Just call on the number Kenny's calling, 518-952-2944, and we can get you right on the air. So I know Ken must have to run back in the house, so we'll see. He said he was busy, crazy, working on the race cars, and I know that Monday night is a busy work night for a lot of racers, and we appreciate the ones that do
This
take
call
it.
is being recorded.
Yep. Okay. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Hello. There he is. Okay. I want to first congratulate you on finally remembering me. Get back to the phone. And second,
Busy working on them race cars.
I know. I'll congratulate. Well, I don't know. I think, was it last year that you won the first race of the year, or?
Yeah, it was I believe it was, but this is the second race actually
Yeah.
this year. But it's the first of the points races this year.
Right. So that
Because we had the tour race was there.
yep. Now,
That's what got me involved in the tour racing.
right. Oh, are you okay? All right.
Yep, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good. All good.
They fell off the chair or something. Anyhow, we're talking to Crazy Kenny Martin, the winner at Albany Saratoga on Friday night. As he said, the first point race of the season. He is the defending track champion. Ken, now there was some changes made over, well, some made, some changed, I guess, back and forth. The Pro Stock division here is really taken off, like you said, or like we have said the last couple of seasons here. I was a little concerned the first couple of weeks. Some of the car counts were down. You know, Albany Saratoga wasn't up to where they were, but this past week, back to the 26 or whatever it was, and it looks like it's continuing to be a healthy division. But there was some changes made as far as the front ends and the clips and all this other stuff. Maybe you can run through yours. I know probably is the same one. What you said it was like the motor rusted together, so you couldn't get it apart if they wanted to check it anyway. But
Yeah, it's all been together since like the same clip's been in that car since '08 when I built the car. It's still the stock Camaro clip in this one, but they are allowing like the aftermarket clips to go in them. I know they're out there in a few cars already, and more or less it's going to be a trial and error. They're going to probably wind up seeing how they hold up. Are they safe when they crash? Stuff like that. How easy are they to repair? That's going to be a bunch of the questions that's going to get answered the first year if they really run them hard.
Yeah, but don't. And again, I just want your opinion on this. But don't you think? I mean, it's really they got to do something because. Other than you and a few others, the front clips aren't going to. There's not that many around to be had anymore. Anyway, so basically they're going to antique themselves right out, and they aren't safe. For a lot of the ones that you used to get from the junkyards and all that stuff are going to be, not available or rusted to the point where they're not safe anyway. So, wasn't it? This had to come.
And you pay a lot of money for them to begin with, and then you really got to work with them for a whole lot just to get them in your car.
Yep.
Is the aftermarket clip easier way to go? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If we can keep the cost down on them, that would be the big deal there. I'm not going to replace mine until something actually does happen. I wouldn't do it just for spite, but there's some people actually do. But like I said, they're out there. They're down the Lebanon Valley. I know they're at Fonda. They're Malta. So they're going to be out and about on all the different tracks. As far as finding them, some guys you talk to, they can get as many clips as you want, and then you can talk to other guys, and they're fading out real quick. But yes, to answer your question, a lot of them that you get are either bent or rusted to where they don't last all that long. And some of these guys are actually hacking a lot of it apart where they're really not even using the whole clip anyway, and that's a problem in itself.
Now, again, I'm not a mechanical wizard or even close to that, but just watching you guys go around in a circle for 50 years, basically that is the only part of the Pro Stocks now that is OEM, so to speak, anymore, right? Because the rest of the frames
the front clip, the lower control arms, and tie rod ends and steering box.
Mm-hmm.
That and the same thing with the stock spindles also.
Yep.
And that's probably the biggest problem is probably getting the spindles for them.
Gotcha.
Now a lot of people are adapting the metric style spindles over. It's just because you're running out of those. So pretty soon, it's going to wind up forcing us into an aftermarket spindle that gets stamped out, and that's something they're going to have to spec and check and all that. And that's the hard part is where do we go with this?
Gotcha. Yep.
I started out with these cars, and they had, unibodies in the back, and you had to have that unibody frame there, and now there's no more of that, and you're right to the clip. Now you're running out of a lot of spindles, and spindles have been real easy. So they're going to have to do something with that eventually. And it's either you move up and go with it, or fade the class out and start with something different. And it's, you don't want to see that.
Right.
So
I think that I think that the main concern, I guess, not only yourself but other guys have been doing this for a good long time. Kenny Gates certainly is one as well. That you don't turn this class into basically late models. Is that your fear that?
Yeah, pretty much you're there.
Okay.
It's like, your jack and bolts are all the way around the cars. You're,
okay.
What do you got left? You're doing aftermarket clips now. So what is a late model? This basically you are a late model.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not far off. It's aftermarket control arms and spindles, and you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, when you run out of parts, you run out of parts. There's just, what are you going to do?
Right.
In the meantime, we just kind of milk it out for what it's worth, and people are making a lot of money off us, dealing with these parts.
Right.
Anybody that got them out there in the world, they know what they're worth now, and they mark them up just because they know we need them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when they're starting to get to the price of when you can buy an aftermarket spindle, stamped brand new for, and it's not bent, didn't come off a street car that was 30 years old, you might be better off just doing that.
Right. But isn't this a suspension of a, say a dirt late model like Tim McCready and Scott Bloomquist and all these guys run? The suspension is much more sophisticated than what you guys have, right?
Yeah. They're coil over shocks. The chassis are like all full tubular, more or less, and the whole thing there is, plus they're running big ass motors.
Oh yeah.
But you're talking like you're talking almost a cup style car that we're building right now. That you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You're building. You're building a full tubular chassis. Out of aftermarket metal. And,
right.
You bolt on a couple of different stock parts, and not a stock car no more.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's that. I think they stopped being stock cars in about 1950. I think, but basically, but really, so like you say, I don't hear that you're totally against it because obviously you have no other options. But just so people know that I know that there was some meetings or a meeting or whatever. I know there's several. Pro stock guys, Nick Stone, of course, he builds stuff for a living. Kim Duell builds a lot of his own stuff, and like I say, you have a lot of stuff on yours that you've tweaked, I guess is the best way to put it yourself. So, but you're not out trying to sell them yet. You may someday down the road. But Dirt itself, as far as the series goes, has been the one that's been kind of holding back and letting these guys do that, which, as you said, is probably a good thing. So you don't want to get crazy and have all these aftermarket stuff that costs a lot of money. You want to try to keep the costs as tight as you can. But do you think Dirt is now working and with these guys that are trying to come up with alternatives for you guys to stay in business? Have you?
Obviously, yes, because Nicky's got his clips already in the cars.
Mm-hmm.
The only bad part that I get upset about is they didn't come out with the ruling early enough to let a lot of the guys do what they need to do to get these clips put in the cars.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Put it in paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
Make all the specs, and make sure everything's out there the right way before they allow it. These clips are already allowed before. All the rules were in the paperwork, and that bugs me there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other rules that they're starting to come up with, they don't even talk to us about. They just slam us with them, and it's expensive stuff, and that's what's going to push a bunch of these guys off.
Okay. Yep. I know. I saw somewhere, and you can. This ties right into what you're saying. Over the winter months or whatever on Facebook, different things about. Fuel cells and, I guess the brake bias thing was last year, but if you can just, for the fans out there listening, it's not above their head, but the idea, all this stuff that's going on that, the fan might not notice or realize you guys are, calling up dirt. Well, is this legal? Is that legal? Is, can we do this? Can we do that? Really, like you said, it should be, in the rule book and done, and let's, finish out the year.
That's the hard, That's the hard part too. Is sometimes these rules change so much that we can't even keep up with them. But it's say like I built my car in 2008, and I built it by the dirt rule book back then, and my car is legal by then. Of today's day and age, so much stuff could have changed around that the car could be illegal and you don't even know it, because unless you go through the rule book, page by page, and study everything, and keep up on it, daily, it's very, very tough. But it's like you have like some safety stuff which I approve of, like the Hans device. It cost me $1,200. I bought it a long time ago. Well, my sponsors did.
Right.
Kelly was one of them. Yep. So that was a very, very big thing to me. And watching the death of Earnhardt, and they thought that might have been it. And this could be a safety feature. That's where you can spend good money. Some of these things, like they're trying to tell us to do the seats in these cars, a full containment seat, and we don't really have a high impact of a lot of guys getting hurt because of seat injuries or nothing like that. And they don't bother talking to us, and that's a big expense for all of us guys to do. They're talking about a fire suppression system for next year. That could be $800. I don't want to burn. I think it's a good thing. Some things you think, me as a person, I'm only speaking for myself.
Sure. Yep.
Some things I feel that are good, and some things I think that we should have all been looked into a little bit further instead of just making this stuff mandatory. But dirt's dirt, and dirt's going to do what they want to do because they get their new people that come in and they have their new ideas, and they mandate it, and we're stuck. How about start telling all the tracks to start building safer walls, safe barrier walls like NASCAR does now.
Right.
They ain't gonna like that. That's their expense, and our prize fund's not going up any. We're spending more and more and more money in these cars, and it pushes us out of our division. They go right up to a sportsman division for the same cost, and they can roll the cars around easier, and shocks and everything is a lot easier to get for them. And they're making our rules so strict, it's very tough for us to keep maintaining what we have, and for $1 and cents wise.
Right.
So that's the tough part. I love the division. I stick with it, and I support it, but I have bad feelings about some of the decisions that are made in the past.
Yep. Well, I say it is a catch-22 because most, even fans would say, well, geez, how can you argue with safety? And I mean, that's one of the routes that they're going. And I understand, and you explained it perfectly, that, there certainly are some things that are necessary and that make you safer, and it's better all the way around. Now, in fact, you talk about promoters about putting a safe wall around. I believe, Pete, you out there?
Yep.
Okay. Pete Demetrazik is on the other line, and we got Kenny Martin here. And Pete, I don't know if you've just heard, we're talking about the new things at the pro side. And you as a promoter are kind of caught in between this whole deal because you don't make the rules, but you have to enforce them, and you have to explain to the drivers why dirt does what they do, and you probably don't have a reason either. So,
well, one of the reasons Dirt Car did this is because right at this time, there's 54 pending lawsuits for head and neck injuries within the Dirt Car organization. And you got to remember, the Dirt Car not only covers what we race around here, they also have the UMP modifieds, which is a huge division for them.
Yes.
So this is where some of it all started.
Gotcha. No, it makes total sense, and I'm sure Ken will relate. And he said that he has no problem with the Hans and this containment seat. But you don't have a containment seat now, Kenny?
No, I got them.
Yo, okay, you got.
You know,
Yep.
we have to have them if we
Okay.
run on dirt. We have to have them, and it's you know, they just keep slamming everything every year, and it just gets more and more and more. It just gets you know,
Mhm.
it's not an option; it's a mandatory.
Yeah.
And that's where it hurts.
Okay, and that may be why we saw car counts down just a little bit the first week or two, and now they seem to be back almost to where they were, because a lot of these guys were just putting these cars together here.
Scrambling.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, they were scrambling, and
Yep.
Dirt Car kind of pulled a little dirty deal there because they gave them really short notice on this.
Yep.
It's not like next year it's going to be in effect.
Mm-hmm.
We got the letter or the email on that about the same time the drivers found out about it, and that to me was kind of a
Mm-hmm.
dirty move by their part. There should have been a lot more knowledge or a lot more notice given to these teams and stuff, because if I remember, it was after the trade show that this came out. So they missed their opportunity to go buy, at a discounted price or whatever at the trade shows or the car shows for this stuff too. So
right.
it's kind of.
Yep. No, that's exactly what Ken was saying earlier. He doesn't have a problem with them mandatory, but they should have done the paperwork and let these guys, like you said, you had 4, 5, 6 months off during the. Yeah, you don't have a lot of off season anymore, but we got it extended this year because of weather. But like Ken says, it's just an added expense, which it is, like Pete, like you said, something that they're trying to cover their butts too because of the lawsuits. So that makes a good point that maybe both of you, being one a driver, one a promoter, can talk about. Everybody that goes into pits signs these waivers, and has it been proven now? I know there was a case someplace along, and Pete, you probably are up on this more than I, that in the last year or two, whatever, that basically blew this whole waiver thing away and said you can't really, that doesn't mean anything anymore.
The way it was explained to me by my insurance company,
Mm-hmm.
my insurance company defends you in a criminal matter.
Okay.
In the case of Tony Stewart,
Yep.
he was cleared of criminal charges. They went after him in civil court.
Mm-hmm.
Civil court isn't covered under the waivers, isn't covered under, it's a lot of things.
Oh, okay.
It's basically they're going after you personally. They were suing Tony Stewart personally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and I guess you've seen their latest rebuttal.
Right, yeah.
And, it's a sad thing. I mean, we knew Kevin when he was 4 years old racing go-karts up here at Caroga Creek.
Right, yep.
And, I mean, we grew up around Kevin and his dad and his mom, and it was really sad what happened, and I don't want to comment one way or another.
Right, no.
I got my own personal feelings
Well, everybody
on
does,
everything that happened with that, and
Yep. But the thing is, you as a promoter then have got to be a little antsy as far as that part goes. That's why I'd say maybe Dirt is doing.
Now you got to have another insurance policy.
Right. Now, Ken, you as a driver, when you signed that waiver, that's how you kind of feel to us that you've given your rights away. But I know that everybody, if unfortunately you got injured.
I've been taking 30 years. I've been signing these papers.
Yep.
And in some cases, people are sitting there saying that they're suing and they win and all that. And I'm the old school guy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking on the responsibility that I'm getting into something that I may get hurt in, or death is there. There's always a possibility. You could trip over your own shoelaces and die tomorrow walking off your steps,
Right.
Yeah.
But when you sign a piece of paper, it's it's a piece of paper now, and people really try getting away with Sue Happy and all that.
Right.
I'm just old school. I take responsibility myself that, hey, I get on that car, and as long as it's not somebody deliberately driving into me to hurt me, to take me out of a race, and then I get injured, that's when it should be turned over to a criminal side instead of just a accidental side.
Right.
You know, like I'm going to tell you, Todd Hoffman with, you know, his head injury and stuff could have been prevented. And that is just, you know, you're taking a responsibility of getting in a car.
Mm-hmm.
You're going out there racing with 20-some-odd other people. Anything can happen. But like I said, I'm old school. I'll deal with my consequences at the end and walk away.
Yeah, and I think you're.
I'm not going to think that. I'm not going to sit there and believe that piece of paper is going to cover me at all.
Right, and I
believe that people should help me.
And I think that's, you know, pretty much, like you said, old school or whatever. And Pete's certainly old school too as well. He goes back a long time.
Yeah,
but now he's on the other side, and he sees there are more litigious situations out there in every business, not only ours, but
a lot of this comes in. You know, Kenny's an older guy. He's been around for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
The problem we have right now is the young kids racing.
Right.
Everybody, oh, my kid got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If a kid gets hurt on a racetrack, you almost got to think, is the parent guilty of endangering the welfare of that minor?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Not the track hurt my kid.
Right.
The parent who's responsible let my kid do this.
Right.
And our insurance company says it's okay for him to race. They'll cover him because it's the same as racing a go-kart, racing whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
But when they want to turn around and sue the track, you know, because their kid got hurt, who let the kid race? The parent had to have the first say. The track didn't go there and say, your kid's racing tonight.
Right.
And yank him out of the stands and put him in a race car.
And you signed a waiver for your kid.
Right.
Because I did the same thing with my kid, and I was nervous about it. But
oh yeah,
I took it again as I was the parent that was signing the waiver,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
and I would deal with the consequences the same, you know,
Right.
as it was me. But like again, you got those people out there. I mean, you got 11-year-olds now driving, 13-year-olds driving. Look at you got 18-year-olds in NASCAR now. And it's like, okay, what are you going to do? Have 5- and 6-year-olds in a sportsman car next?
Yeah, well, that was one of the things I was going to. Well, we walked right into this because, in fact, I was going to this week, but I'm definitely going to get him on here very, very shortly. Derek McGrew Jr. He won down at Pete's Place a couple of weeks ago in the Limited Sportsman. He went up to Glen Ridge last night, night before last night. Yeah, I forgot what day it was here, but. I don't know if he's 10 or 11, something like that. And first, Pete, I want to ask you, apparently, I know New Jersey, you got to be 16 to even be in the pits. But apparently in New York, there is no age limit on that. And I'm sure that, you know, Derek is a great racer himself, and he's brought his kid along. He wants he's been helping his kid do this. They've raced all over the country. So there's not an issue as far as that part goes. But as a promoter and as a, you used to work on race cars, your son raced, you went through this whole thing too. Where is there a line here? And the kid's good. There's no question about that. But
here's the deal is, and I'm just, you got hothead drivers out there.
Yep.
That are in his class.
Mm-hmm.
Something happens.
Yep.
That's my biggest worry with this.
Right.
You're not dealing with an adult anymore. You're dealing with a minor.
Right.
Now here's the case again. You, the parent, let the kid do it. The parent is endorsing the kid to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't the kid responsible for taking his own medicine when the time comes?
Right.
But how do you get somebody in a 10-year-old's face?
Right.
So now.
Well, it puts you in a difficult. Right, it puts you promoters in a difficult situation because legally you can't. Well, you can. It's your show, but you can't say no. I'm not going to let him race here because then you step off on the other deal. Well, we can sue you because you won't let him race here. So
Dirt car let him race.
Okay. Fair enough.
Dirt car approves him.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm part of a sanctioning body, but dirt car don't have to deal with him on a daily basis or a weekly basis.
Right.
We do.
Yes. Yep.
So, and all the circumstances around him. I mean, I got to tell you, he's a very well-behaved kid.
He is. Oh, yeah. No.
And I mean, Derek makes sure of that. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
you know, and stuff. But you look at this and you're going, there's going to come a time, something's going to happen, you know, and it's not going to be good. And you just hope it's not at your place.
Well, here we go. Everybody, somebody we all know, and races cars. Kim Duell just shouted out here. He said you should have a driver's license to drive a race car. He said that's the old way, and that's what it.
That's the old way, and he's absolutely right.
Yep.
I believe Albany Saratoga, when Bruce had it, he had it to where you couldn't be in the pits unless you were 16 also for many years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He more or less kept all the kids out of the pits because it's not even so much being racing as they walk down through the pits and they get hit by a car or you know, they get involved in a fight with somebody and then the parents jump in and then they got all that going on.
Right.
Yeah, you know,
Oh, yeah.
one of the things we try and stress at Fonda is the race cars have the right of way. This is not a public street.
Right.
And the race cars are our primary objective there, and you have to pay attention when you're in here. But we see people, adults, walking down through looking at their phones, not paying attention.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm gonna get really worried here in another week when the sprint cars come because people don't pay attention and they come up pretty quick on you, even in the pits when they're coming off the track, and it's I don't know.
Yep.
Then
You
you
look
get
at
then you get an aggravated driver that comes blowing on in there. And you know
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not right.
Yeah.
But that's you're waiting for that day to happen, and you don't want it to happen at your place again, like you're saying, and you don't want it to happen. Period.
That's
but
right.
it does happen,
Mm-hmm.
and then the people that are walking through the pits think they got the right of way, and it's not that way. But how's it get handled later on? You know, all of a sudden you're in a fight with somebody. You know, they're trying to
and
pull
then,
you out of the car and everything, and you know what the right thing to do is. They don't.
Yep.
Yep.
And then you're Facebooked to death.
Yes. Well, yeah. Well,
Criticized big time.
yeah.
Correct.
Well, our old friend C.J. Richards, who both of you know very well, told me long time ago that when he had the little go-kart track out in the back of Albany Saratoga, he said, Ed, he says, I have more problems with the go-kart people because it's the kids and the parents, he says, just like Little League, than I ever did with the full-bodied race cars. Now we're kind of transferring that whole, the age group or whatever into the full distance. So
what's happened is that whole generation has grown up and they're now in stock cars. This is where all the kids are in the pits. Everything. The whole thing is just segregated or moved right on up to the big cars.
Right.
You know, and let's face it, the go-karters are your future racers.
Yep.
But everything came with them.
Yes.
The habits and everything,
right.
you know?
Right.
And, you know, when you look at NASCAR, in some ways you got to respect the way they treat their drivers or school them.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you're in this league. We don't do this here.
Right.
You know, and I guess most of the tracks are guilty of, we just let them go until there's a problem, then we talk to them.
Right. Right.
And you sometimes you wonder if you don't want to talk down to them, you don't want to make them sound like the drivers that they're uneducated or anything, but you almost want to sit them down for a class for an hour before we go racing.
Right.
This is what we expect of you when you race here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you know, and there's a lot of professionals. Kenny, wherever he goes, he's professional.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't see him getting in fights or anything. If he gets mad, he just packs up and leaves. You know.
Yeah. Well, he's too old to fight now. He's.
Well, I think he's still got fight in him. I think he just wants to choose his battles now.
Yes. He's too smart. He's too smart to fight now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know how we even got off in this dark tangent, but I mean, it is all these things that go underneath every Friday or Saturday or Sunday night at the racetrack. The promoters, Pete, as yourself, No, there's so much pressure on you guys from all this stuff here that, even the racers don't even think about half the time. They get there and, geez, Pete's awful grumpy tonight. Well, geez, he's worrying about, somebody gets hurt. He says, "Well, I'm gonna lose my house, my home, or whatever." It just, it is a lot of stuff.
I went to Utica last night, and I run into Bill, and what's going on? Oh,
Yep.
This is bad. That's bad. This didn't work. This one didn't show up.
Yep.
You get people not showing up for work, and
yes,
I mean, it's
I can
all,
attest to that. Yeah. So it is. And the drivers the same way. I mean, they work. It's a different pressure on them. Like Kenny now, we pulled him away reluctantly from working on his race car here to talk to us for a few minutes. But, working all week on the race car and then getting up to the racetrack and then go out in the heat race and, getting a jingle or something. And, the whole week's, 60 or plus hours of work on the race car are gone in 3 minutes. And you got, 10 minutes to get it right so you can go out and finish the night off. So
yeah,
it is a high pressure situation for everybody. And
that's right.
Maybe it's amazing.
Just for that big adrenaline rush.
Right. maybe it's
with stress added.
Right. Maybe it's a miracle that things do run as smoothly as they do, I guess, on a weekly basis. But it's all supposed to be fun here, and that's the bottom line. Sometimes the fun factor drips off a little bit as you get on in age. But Ken. Again, before we let you go here, well, you came on late, so we're going to keep you a little late. How's that? As far as crew, you've had pretty much the same people with you for a long time.
Many years.
Yeah.
Yeah. The main sponsors and stuff like that, like Carmen Body Works and Charlton Oil. They've been around. They've been good supporters for us for a long time. The Brownells. His son sits right here and works on my car all the time, and we keep the crew down at the garage minimal, so I don't have to worry about it so much.
Mm-hmm.
But I get a good turnout at the track with the people that show up there, and you got to thank them people for showing up and volunteering their time, just to help you out to do what you really love to do. And, that's for a lot of people that are out there. I can't afford to pay all my crew members, weigh in and food and everything else.
Right.
So you thank them, to the world and moon. They change a tire for you if you need to, or a tie rod end or whatever. But yeah, like Carmen Body Works, Charlton Oil, they've just been there. Like Bobco Videos, he's been there since he started videoing.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first car that he ever got his name put on.
Cool.
And, he's been with us forever, and, he does an awesome job for what he does for us and stuff like that. And it's very tough of today's day and age to find very, very good sponsors or very good people that build a very good team for you. Like Stuart Friesen just happens to have one of the big powerhouse money guys, and it really does make a difference on how your whole program can run. Is it easier or harder or whatever? It might be more stress on you because you got to perform better because obviously more money's involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. These people been with me because they turned out to be friends and family after 30 years of doing this. They've been on my car that long that, we wind up doing other things together besides just racing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what really makes it cool about racing is you make a lot of friends in your family and everything else. And you get to do other things besides just racing to have fun. And that's where you give them a little payback, helping their dreams come true also. Because they might be in the boating or skiing or something like that, and you go and you help them out.
And that was one of the questions, Ken, I was going to ask you, as far as, it used to be the day when you had two cars, and you still have two cars, but would race, 2 nights a week. And I know we've talked about this in the last couple of years. is it when you get to the point in your career where, hey, you've pretty much done it all, your championships and everything you've driven, and is it more the cost, or are these the newer type pro stocks more work during the week to get prepared that you've cut back to one night a week?
It's I'm going to say it's the cost of everything.
Okay.
The tires, the oils, the fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Getting into feeding people. It
Yep.
just, and the traveling expense. Do I love to do it? Absolutely. If I had, big money behind me and I could do more nights a week, I would do that, because I'm one of those work ethic guys that I'm going to work for what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work 6 days a week to be able to race one
Right.
if I have to.
Yep.
I still have 2 cars. I got Bobco's car. I still
Yep.
got my car. And I tend to both of Dave DePaulo's cars. He's got 2 cars also
Right.
that I tend to.
Mm-hmm.
So between Jason, myself, and Timmy Fisher that does setups, there's only 3 of us that really maintain these cars back at the garage, and that's a lot of work just so I can race one night a week.
Mm-hmm.
If I had somebody giving you a vehicle, so to say, because the miles you put on a vehicle every year towing your race cars around,
Yep.
your tires and all that stuff is all an expense. When you add everything together, when you go, say, Oswego
Mm-hmm.
racing for that race, it just costs you so much money, and everybody says, why don't you just go do a NASCAR race? And you actually could.
Right.
But I love the sport. The sponsors that I've got get me to where I am right now for one night a week. That's great. And that's, I'm glad I can still do one night a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll go hit some special shows, the Hondo Classic, or,
Right.
hit the KOD race here or there, or dirt race here and there that inspires me or whatever, to try doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy that actually can go out and hit different tracks all the time is only going to make him better.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that's what I found out when I used to do all the dirt tours and all that. And
Mhm.
obviously last year I did the KOD tour, and it made me better as I was going along throughout the year also.
Mhm.
And, we almost won that. But the expense of everything is skyrocketed, and that's why it kind of refrains me from going so many
Okay.
nights a week.
Yep. Fair enough. Well, I'm going to let you go and get back so you can get at least half a night of work in tonight. I want to thank you for breaking off and chatting with us. I'm sure we're going to be touching base with you again, because I know this is not going to be the last time you sit in victory lane anyway. This
I
year,
really,
that's for
really,
sure.
yeah. See, I really, really wanted this race Friday night because of Bernie
Right.
that passed away. I used to work at the track. The guy was an awesome, awesome guy. I wish everybody had officials like him that went above and beyond
Yes.
of their jobs to satisfy people and be easy talking to, and really smooth out situations without any violence, so to say.
Yep.
And that race there, I just wanted to dedicate that race to him, and that meant more than doing it for myself. I wanted to do it for him, so that
Cool.
is the reason why I wanted to win that race so bad. And it was a really, really good race.
Yeah,
it
was
was
an
no
excellent race.
hand me race. It
Nope.
was, it wasn't rough riding or nothing. It was just one of
Mhm.
those old, good style races.
Yep.
And, I really enjoyed it all week long. Everybody's been talking about it. And it really makes me feel great that I can do that and dedicate it to that man. And,
Well, that was
and
that was
get
great.
on out.
That was great you did that, because he was also a very close friend of mine, and Lyle and I, Lyle DeWart, talked about Bernie a little bit in length last week. About I know a lot of the fans probably never heard of him or knew anything about it, but most of the racers, the majority of racers, knew who Bernie Held was. And Pete, he worked for Pete, so Pete knows what a great guy Bernie was.
Yep. Yep.
And we're not done with Bernie yet. We're gonna do something here with some speedways here before the well, maybe in infinitum down the road or whatever. But anyhow, yeah, it was great. You dedicated that to him, and it was kind of a dedication night because then Peter Britton wins with Maynard Troyer passing along, and then he went out and won again Saturday night. So kind of nice tribute to the Troyer name as well. But yeah, it was kind of a heart-filled night over at Albany Saratoga. That's for sure. And hopefully, I know you'll be there. As probably Pete will too for the the memorial service on the 24th on a Sunday coming up pretty soon. All right, Ken, I'm going to let you go unless there's something else you want to pop in. And thank you for adding that about our good friend Bernie.
Well, I just thank everybody on my crew, my teams, my sponsors, and all the tracks. I wish them all well to have more racing in, and put this rain aside and let's go racing.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, thanks, Ken.
All right, see you guys later.
Yeah, crazy Kenny Martin. All right, now Pete. Well, we talked about great racing, and then there was some. We said now after last night at Utica, and you got to see that one out there. A great race between. Well, we'll call him Fonda's Own because that's where he got started, and that's where he still races on Saturday night. Jeremy Wilder and Matt Shepard, and you had a tremendous race yourself at Fonda 2 weeks ago with Tim Fuller and Stuart Friesen, and Albany Saratoga had a great race with. So the racing's been great when we had a chance to get any in. So I did, and I was going to ask you off the air, but this is not a trick questions. But somebody had said, and I got to fess up here. I have not been able to get the racetrack because of HELP problems, not HEA. So you know exactly how that is. But someone said that you had done some work then in the first turn. You took the old, or not the old, the drain that was put in there by Matt DiLorenzo, and was there?
Yeah,
obviously there's a reason.
We're waiting to put it back is what we're doing.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't work very well the way it is right now.
Right.
They basically put a French drain in there, and what it does is plug up with mud. And you actually need a catch basin with a drop pipe in it, so the mud stays in the catch basin instead of going down the pipe.
Right, and maybe I know you can. We had talked to Rick Lucia years ago about the first turn issue, and he said it wasn't right since when they put the
road.
When they put Route 30A through there, they broke it or whatever they did, and it's never been right since. Is that pretty much the situation?
No.
Okay.
What happens is we sat up there in a rainstorm and watched it,
mm-hmm.
and all of the roofs in the first turn, they all pitched towards the back of that wall.
Okay.
And it all runs right across the track, makes a heck of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we get the Amosite boys are out and working, we're going to put a ditch right along the back of those culverts to stop all that.
Oh, okay.
Or the back of them Jersey barriers to stop it, because if we get a good rain and stuff, it actually wears trenches right in the track, and then you get the little bit of washboard going in, and it's not good the way it is right now. And
well, I say it's been an issue. God, I don't know if it goes back to the gauges, but certainly for a long time. Now that you're, I mean, you used to be part of a crew, a CD's crew at Fonda, and raced, many races there. But now that you're actually a hands-on guy that has to get out and dig in it, I realize that Fonda's probably one of the tougher tracks to prepare, because the water level is there. you got nothing. It's a difficult racetrack to get. I'm not saying anybody gets it right every week as far as that part goes, but to get it close, it's a struggle. A lot of tracks, like Lebanon Valley, the high banks, they drain off pretty well, so you get a lot of rain. Yes, he does have a pond inside, but it drains itself off. Albany Saratoga is a much smaller track, and it was built for racing. Fonda was built for horses, and and we're trying to beat it to death
Different animal.
with 800 horses, a car.
Yeah. And it's just there's a whole bunch of different circumstances there. And Rick told me 3 years ago that what you would run into and everything he said was 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different clays on the track, and there's and actually the back gets beat down all day long, that backstretch, by all the trucks making trips in and out of the sewer plant because the track is smoother than the road, so they drive on the racetrack.
Right. Okay.
There's a bunch of things there that we try and work around and work with, and it's difficult. But the last week with Stewart and Tim Fuller, that was an awesome race, and that was, we had people standing up in the stands. That's what you like to see. That's the kind of excitement you like to see in the crowd.
Absolutely. And
and
and we had Tim, we had Fuller on last week, and he said, and I've heard Jack Johnson say the same very thing. He said the track was too fast. So there. Yeah. And I know you as an old race guy think, you can never make a track too well. And we all know what Fuller was talking about. He said you don't need to be turning, 19-second laps around there. It is with today's car they're better, but they did a great job.
They were running 20-second laps.
Yep.
But it was a great race.
Yeah.
We could have had an 18-second track, and you wouldn't have seen none of that.
No.
And but as the summer goes on, it'll slow down another second, and hopefully we'll have even better racing. Especially with some of the new design cars that they've come out with, and Stewie really has his DKM car working really well at Fonda, and
well, everywhere.
Timmy had his new car out, and
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of new technology coming out, and I know that Kenny was complaining about the price of technology, but racers are their own worst enemies.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Yep.
You tell them no Schrader valves on the shocks, and they try and give you a BS line that you got to have them, and you don't have to have them.
Mm-hmm.
And and nobody wants to see the pro stock guys run $300, $400, $500 shocks on their cars. But they do it when they can get away with it,
mm-hmm.
and because they're racers, that's what they do.
Yep.
Just like the MasterCard commercial, they're racers.
Right.
That's what they do.
Right. But as far as
everybody's
right, as far as Fonda goes, you're going strictly by the dirt rule books for all of your classes.
We have just the one motor rule exception for the big blocks, and
okay, yes, right.
That's the Hunt motors,
yes.
And we'll allow small blocks there, but they got to come up 358.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found it interesting. I see that Dan Harpel down at the 5 Mile Point Speedway. I don't know if he kicked him out for good, but Danny Creedon won the race down there a couple weeks ago, and he said, no, that's not. And I thought that was an open big block, small block, but apparently, I don't know what he had, if he had an aluminum block or whatever. Maybe you even know, but.
No, he 383.
Okay.
And Danny finished second at Middletown.
Yes.
And they said, nope. So I guess he didn't get that one. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough, because except your exception for the Hunt motors and stuff. Like Scott. Scott's been getting better and better, and
oh yeah,
he's
Scott is consistently fast. I want to tell you with the motors, and you look at Matt Shepard last night. Matt had a W16 in the car, one of those dirt spec motors.
Okay.
Yeah. And he still won.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to say something, because there was a pretty stout field there, and Jeremy is no slouch in a small block.
Nope.
That kid can drive the wheels off a small block.
Yep.
And when he couldn't get him, and Jeremy's got a good 358.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yep.
But
okay, I was wondering because I know we had talked to Fuller last week about whether he thought that W16 would be competitive at Utica, and he said, well, we'll have to see. He wasn't too yes or no on the whole deal, but he's kicking everybody's butt at Mohawk, but he said that's a different style track, smaller track that slicks off, and so I mean he won by like half a track the other night on Friday night up there with him. But again, that's but as of you've had nobody approach you as far as Fonda goes to run a W16.
Oh no, I'm Anna Trello has a W16 motor. Yeah.
All right. Yep. I know. Well, we know Bobby. Bobby has one too. I don't know. Well, he sent it back, and I'm not quite sure if he still has it or not. But he didn't.
Carolyn Elton got him a dirt legal small block.
Right. Yeah, and that's what he ran
and that's
last
what
night.
He had up at Utica.
Right.
But the W16 motor. Let's face it. If everybody was on them, if you just said W16s tomorrow, you'd probably see the same results in the racing, in the race results.
Mm-hmm.
You'd still see, but they'd be saving a lot of money.
Yep.
These motors run for 2 years without touching them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the Canadians are getting out of them.
Right.
So it's, I know everybody wants, they're racers. They all want that extra 25 or 35 horse,
right.
The difference. And
so just give me an extra 25 or 30 grand, or 40 or more, something like that, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
right.
A real good small block is more than you're more than halfway to a cost of a full blown Billy the Kid.
Yeah. Well, that's what Fuller and I were talking about. Oh, I see. Dave Constantino's joined us on the other line. Hi, Dave.
How you doing?
Good. We got Pete Demetrazik on the other line, and you've probably been listening anyway in the shop. But
just listening along here.
Okay. But like Pete said, he gave DKM a shout out for Stewie. Well, not only Stewie, but everybody that's purchased one. Well, we already know Adam's got a win down in Bridgeport, and excuse me, the wins the hits keep coming, as they say, and it's been just a great, not that I don't think anybody doubted that you guys were going to be successful, because, you're a very intelligent bunch of guys. And, but has it surprised you a little bit how well you have gone? I know this is what you were hoping for, but has it surprised you a little bit?
This is years and years in the making. And we're just, we spent a long time this winter looking at some geometry and some other things that we wanted to take a closer look at, and we were pretty excited about getting down to Volusia. We had some good runs down there, and we've actually we've run well everywhere we've been so far this year.
Yeah, everybody that's got one is well satisfied. Well, of course, young Derek McGrew has picked up a couple wins, 2 different tracks now with that, and whether or not people go with the idea that he's old enough to race big cars or not, I guess that battle will be gone on for a while, I'm sure. But if he hadn't been winning, or he hasn't won, then they probably wouldn't say too much. But now that he's winning, they'll probably.
It's a tough call whether you base it on experience or age.
Right.
Because he's got more experience than half the field he's racing against.
Yeah, and obviously, you guys are close to his dad. Derek was part of the DKM guys back in the day, and he still hangs around a lot and still promotes you guys all over the place. So, and the kid is good.
Junior's in a tough spot. Junior's in a tough spot. He's got a pretty tough teacher.
Yep, that's for sure. Well, that's what Pete said. He's not concerned about Junior minding his P's and Q's. He'll mind his.
You don't want to get out of line very much.
Right. Yeah. Okay, Pete. We'll kind of flop back and forth here for a moment. This is what your third.
Yep.
This will be your third season at Fonda, and I know I asked Matt DiLorenzo the first year, right after the first year he did it, what surprised him, what didn't surprise him, whatever. You got 3 years in, and I don't know if I've ever, confronted you with that question or not, but you've been in this game forever, as was Matt, as far as that part goes. But I'm a promoter, and you were a promoter up to Glen Ridge anyway, so you had some previous experience with that. But Fonda's a different animal. You know, Rick Lucia's always said that over the years, and you've worked at both places. Was there things that surprised you about Fonda Speedway? Obviously, the Fair Board is hard to work with. Everybody promoter that's been there has been the same. You seem to kind of smooth things along pretty well. I haven't heard too many issues there as far as that.
We try and just try and get along with them, and
yep.
They need something, we try and accommodate them, and you've heard the old "when you can't fight City Hall."
Right. Yep.
Well,
and
there you go.
Right. The sooner you quit, the easier it is to get up in the morning. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it was just like I told you the last time. I think the thing that surprised me the most was just how big that surface is compared to like Glen Ridge, and how much more time you spend on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's you look at, we're constantly compared to Albany Saratoga about what time they get out and how fast their show runs and all this. And Dave's set in the car, and he goes around there. You go around there under a caution lap, it's 30, 35 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You race around there, it's 18, 19 seconds.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't take very many caution laps to add up to an hour. And we had a meeting with officials this week, and we're going to change the way some of the stuff is done down there. We're going to cut the caution time down to because you look at it, you start adding them up, and it's minutes.
Right.
It's minutes, and the minutes turn into an hour, and and it can't be anymore. So
yeah, well,
Dave
got
a good understanding.
Right, and on Dave's part as a driver, it's the same situation where it's the other side.
Minutes in the backstretch the first race.
Right. It's the other thing too, though. If you're a racer and you have an issue, you hope to get enough time in there, but it's a catch-22 because you can't give you guys. If you got some serious damage, you're pretty much done anyway. But I guess the standing rule, and Pete, and I don't know if that's what you have at Fonda, or after your meeting may change it. If a guy has a flat tire, you give him 2 laps or whatever the deal is.
We kept the courtesy lap.
Okay.
But the first guy comes in, that's when the courtesy lap takes place. It doesn't take place for everyone that comes in after it.
Gotcha.
And that's where you have to start drawing the line, because I watched the dirt car race last year, and I was very, very frustrated with the way they did things. And as much as, okay, their drivers get a courtesy lap.
Mm-hmm.
The caution comes out. The first guy comes in to change his tires, and it was Matt. He comes in, he changes all 4 tires on the car.
Right.
Goes back out. The next guy comes in, he's changing his. Now he's getting a lap.
Yep.
And that went on. The last 5 laps of that, or 10 laps of that feature, took forever.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, it did.
I said to Mike Prati, you don't hear the fans over there screaming? Come on. I said, I can hear them from here.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's some things that are beyond your control, and like when dirt car comes into town, they're basically in control of the show.
Right. Oh yeah.
And they got their own rules, and they got their own everything when they pull in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess we're along for the ride.
Right. Dave, as a driver, you feel that's fair, like for a flat tire, or like say you got a Nerf bar bent or whatever. The courtesy lap, is that enough, or?
I don't know. I've always been. I mean, Bob Savoy taught me, and when I have a problem, it goes in the trailer, because most nights when you go back out and you're in the back, you end up just being back on the hook 5 laps later.
Right.
Yeah. Or worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. No, that's that we can write that down. Bob Savoy rule number 1. Okay. And Bob won a lot of races, but so that was the biggest. Surprise it is. I mean, you were told that, I guess, going in, as far as that part goes, that once you do it, then you realize that it's Yeah, a half-mile track. I don't care where it is. Like I say, Lebanon Valley is a different deal because, like I say, the way it's shaped, it's and Lyle might not. No, actually, I think he said that before on the show that it takes less track prep for Lebanon Valley than it does for Albany Saratoga because even though it's a bigger track, the way it's built and whatever, it's kind of self-drying and self-prepping.
Yeah.
It is easier. Whereas Fonda, you get a lot of corner speed, and the corners get beat up, and it is. So we talked about the first turn issue, which is an ongoing deal, and we got plans to take that. Now there is, and I think I don't even know any more about it. Maybe Dave, because he was out there racing, he knows. It seemed to come about when Matt DiLorenzo put stuff down. Stuff, I'll call it stuff, but it was dirt of some nature on the corners there one year, and there never seemed to got rid of that dip or whatever it is going into 3. Is that where did that come from? Is that because there's a difference in the thickness of the?
No, there's basically it's where the bedrock starts.
Okay,
it's that close to bedrock right there, but
I got you.
We seem to have that smooth over right now. The problem comes in there is just once it gets a little hole in it, it just picks at the cars just pick at it and make it worse. So, but we started putting clay down last year, and it got too slimy, and Jimmy and Jeff couldn't haul anymore. So I was talking with them yesterday I think it was, because we've got more coming down, but I got to get it down there.
Right. And that's basically the same stuff that's up on the hill.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so it looks like you got you have a great season planned ahead with some special races. Of course, the Jack is the mid-season Derby or whatever, and the Honda and all that stuff. And you guys seem to work over the winter months and picking up some sponsorship for this race. And I know the driver, which got rained out, the meet and greet will be rescheduled. That's always a big. I've heard more drivers say that. Going back a couple of years now, but when you first started, that Dave Lape said that was the most fun he had at Fonda in a long time. The people
we did that last weekend.
Yep. Oh, you did get it. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, we've got another one coming up though, and I think it's in July.
Yep.
And stuff, and the people I think really enjoy getting out and see the race cars, and we actually wanted to do it when the sprint cars were there, so they could come out and see the sprint cars, but Mother Nature had a different idea.
yeah, that is that's for sure. So we got so you feel like your third year in here now. Obviously, the first year's the growing pains and you get all sorted out, and sounds like you're still working, getting the officials. I know we talk to every driver every week, and we're going to talk to Dave here in a moment. His class especially. How the officials have progressed over the years. There's a considerable amount of finding that fine line between right and wrong in the 602s. It looks like things have somewhat leveled off. And maybe Dave, you won't agree, but you feel better when you go to racetracks now that you're kind of on a even playing field, or you still think that there's more that the tracks could do?
I don't know. It's a tough call. There still seems to be a lot of motors that were built in 2006 that are still running.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Those must have been the best ones.
Yes, that was.
It's unbelievable.
Was
I can't seem to get one full season out of one. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I heard the newer ones that came out have more compression to them, the brand new ones.
I didn't hear yet. I did see they got some nice new fancy seal bolt though.
Yeah, well, they all got.
Yep.
So I mean, there's a lot of things coming out that's making tech even harder, and now you're gonna have a guy claiming, no, that's my old motor had that compression, and it's a can of worms, and they have something good and they don't stick with it. They just keep changing.
Yep.
And
I see that, the Cam Doctor, of course, they always said, well, there's different ways to beat that. And then they came up with a different situation with that, so you can make that work pretty well. But, they certainly, it looks like the blatant guys, it seems like they've got some of them as far as that part goes. But as a fan, to watch the car, and Dave probably can attest to this, everybody's pretty damn equal. There's not too many guys you see. Well, Rocky's out now, so, we can't pick on him anymore, but he got torn down more than, well, I said that before and I almost got in trouble. The hooker's bed sheets. But anyway, he's moved on now. And but there really isn't. I mean, Dave Marchicelli, of course, out west. You, Dave, I know that you could probably win a lot more races if you weren't messing around with different ideas and suspension parts every week.
Do a lot of testing.
Right.
That's the one advantage he's got. Not many of the other car builders that actually built them set in their own cars.
Right.
And
yeah.
I mean that's a plus for him right there.
Oh, absolutely. Well,
and that's one thing that we pride ourselves on. I love being able to, I don't really know how you could build a car and not be able to get into it and understand exactly what's happening.
Or whatever, or what somebody else is trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But it's
got
got
to be going just off the other driver's feedback, and it's not good enough.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I know, well, when they first Pete and I are old enough to remember. Probably not you, Dave, but when Tobias first came out with these, that was his deal. I race him. I know what I need. I can do it. And then when he got out of it, of course, Maynard Troyer, who just passed this week, and our prayers go out to his family, was a great racer, but on asphalt. And I don't know where, maybe Pete, or Dave, you heard through the grapevines of the great car builders, where he came up with the idea of building a dirt car, where he really, didn't have a lot of experience in it, and he came out and kicked everybody's butt with it.
From Howard Conkey of Show Cars.
Okay, there you go. Yep. Okay, that makes sense.
When when Alan got mad at Howard.
Okay.
And took his car and went up to Troyer's, and there you go.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep.
And you can't remember Alan Johnson walking around Middletown with the T-shirt on? Remember, it said "Toilet Engineering, Innovators of Duplicating."
Oh yes.
He got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
But that was years and years ago. But
yeah. Okay. Yep.
But
that's right too.
Troyer builds an awesome race car.
Oh yeah.
They
Yep.
They do just like most of the guys. They're not going to build a piece of junk and put it out there and hope somebody gets hurt in it.
Right.
They're all building, decent frames and.
Yep. And like Dave said, he is. Yeah, I guess he is. Right now, the only one. Tobias raced his own cars until he passed. But
Kneisel.
In Kneisel, yeah, he was there. Higbee, Jerry Higbee. Now he does still race a lot, and does his own. But Dave, obviously,
but DKM,
right?
DKM seems to be in this area, a dominant car right now.
Yeah, and it's because, and I'd love to be, and I can't. I'm sure you guys don't have cameras or sound machines in your shop, but I would love to be a mouse on the wall or crawling around between. You have Stuart Friesen was probably one of the most talented, if not the best that we've had around here in a long time. We've had some great ones. Don't get me wrong, but this day and age. And Stuart has his own ideas, and you have your own ideas, and everybody. Do you guys ever come to blows on setups for cars, or do you agree most of the time?
No, I mean we usually prove everything out, and pretty much we're big on it. If we can't make sense out of it on paper or in the computer, we won't do it until we understand the why.
Mm-hmm. But so how much input does Stuart have on the DKM deals. Obviously, he's
Oh,
off.
he's got, like I said, I mean, he's been with us for 3 years now. He's got
Yep.
quite a bit of input. You know, we use it. You know, he's valuable. I mean, you couldn't ask for a more valuable player. You know.
Yeah, but he always, I know, talking to, well, his wife, obviously, and you did, I think, a couple of people, maybe Eric did, drive his race cars from time to time, and got out of them and said, how the hell did he, how do you drive this thing? In fact, I think I heard those words come out of your mouth one night.
Yeah, he's got a unique feel, but as far as the seat of the pants feel, he knows exactly what he's looking for, and he'll adjust the car until he finds what he wants, until he gets the feel he's looking for.
So how do you, as a car builder now, you know, that's basically what you're trying to do, even though, like you said, you are racing, so you get the feel, you know yourself what the feedback is, or get your own feedback. When you build cars for people and they say, well, I want one that's, you know, heavy on the right front, or, you know, I feel comfortable with a car that's loose or a car that's tight. Is that how you try to go about, you know, changing the car up enough for each individual?
Well, I mean, what we do is we build one car. We build one single car, but we build enough adjustment in that car that it can fit anything. We use a bolt-in rack, so we have a few different rack options that you can use. Our coil car is the same as our torsion bar car. All the pieces bolt on and bolt off.
Okay.
And you know, we've got a few new things that we're doing now that are working pretty well. But we build enough adjustment into it that it can fit anyone's driving style.
Okay, so that's how, like I said, they have been able to be very successful so far. And now we talked a week ago or so with Dave Schilling, who has been pretty instrumental in trying to get a sportsman car to work with the coilovers. And you guys have gone, but you have, like you said, your car can go one way or the other. Now, the wins that Stewie has this year, has he won with both the bar car and the coil setup, or just the bar car?
We're on a different setup now.
Okay. So you're not on either. Well, you have to have
well,
one or the
we're
other.
we're back on torsion bars, but we're doing our own thing now.
Okay.
We you know, there's definitely room for the coil car. We saw some advantages to it, but we're doing some different stuff now.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because Tim Fuller last week, we were talking to him about it. We knew last year he was tried to coils at Fonda, got the championship, but only got one win. Now this year he went back to a bar car and won already. So he says, yeah, I give up for now. But like you said, they do work in certain situations, and others, it seems like they're a little harder car to get right every night. They seem to be, you know, I guess it all depends on track conditions. And Pete, as a track promoter, I know we've progressed now to the new cars like the DKMs and all these others that really, really do get into the racetrack, and that's what, you know, that's what they need to turn, and that's the whole clue. We all got enough power now, even though I'm sure racers are want more. But you need them to turn, and the DKM cars turn. And I know that was an issue with some of the other brands from time to time, that they didn't turn. But you try to make a racetrack, I don't know, well, like Rick used to say, I want it smooth and tacky, which to me is like an oxymoron. I don't think that could happen. But is there such a thing?
No.
Okay.
not unless you're racing asphalt and you put the glue on it.
Right, there you go. Dave, would you kind of agree with that? There's no such thing as...
No, I mean, I don't think you're ever looking for a smooth and tacky track. I think, you know, you're just looking for a track that has, you know, has multiple grooves where, there's plenty of room to pass, and the fastest guys get to the front. That's what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
you know, if you can give them bite on the bottom, bite on the top, and the middle is what it is, they'll find a way around.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I mean, it's an entertainment sport, and we're looking to, you know, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, and you know, the tacky tracks tend to tear up the new race cars because they just don't like that anymore. They've become more like go-karts. They're more delicate, I think, than the old race cars were. So the tracks have to change with them too. And we can't give them a track where there's going to be a 6-inch or an 8-inch cushion because, let's face it, we're going to start with 24 and we're going to end up with 3 or 4.
Right. Yeah. And Dave, is that, I know that you're trying to build a safe race car, period, as far as that's the first on the agenda. But with the new style cars and that are light, that guys complained over years, but that was more part failure than anything, spindles and all this other stuff we had to. How do you balance that as a builder, having a strong car and still one that's going to, well, I don't know if it flex anymore. Do your cars flex to a certain amount, or do they have to in order for them to work?
Yeah, well, that's where we're, with us, that's where our engineering background comes in. I mean, that's what we went to school for. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We use the computers hard for all that to see where things move and how they move and how much they move and where we can get away with some lightweight tubing and where we can't and when they'll break and where they'll break. We work pretty hard at that to get these right.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many? We're talking about. We talked to Peter Britton there earlier, but we'll talk to him next week. But they talk about the TD 1, 2, 3. Now we're up to 5, I think, or whatever. Is that? I don't know. You aren't numbering your different deals, but what are we on? Like you said, it's been many years in the making here, this whole deal. But what are you on? Like a 3rd or 4th generation now of DKM chassis? If you change things from the first one,
we haven't changed too much, and
Okay.
of the ones that we had out there, we brought all those. I guess we did a recall. I brought every one of those back, and we updated the changes that we wanted to make on those.
Mm-hmm. And so you get. Well, I say you got how many? Like I said, I think when I talked to you guys down in Volusia, I think is either you or Eric said that you had made built 12 chassis over the winter, and I know there's more gone out since then. Where do we have a number count? I mean, not that it makes any difference, but you're building quality and not necessarily quantity. Well, you want to build more quantity, that's for sure. But
and it's a tough time to grow into. We had some good results at Oswego last year, and it was a quiet winter. Then we come out of Volusia strong, but as a Volusia, if guys didn't have a plan in place already for what they had and what they were building,
right.
It was kind of late in the season. Right now we're in talks with a lot of people. We got a lot of quotes out.
Cool.
We sold a car last week that we're gonna we got 3 more to build right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just working. We're just chipping away at them.
So are you? You're never going to be happy until you sell 100 a year like Troy or Bicknell or something. But
I don't know. That sounds really stressful.
Okay. Well,
honestly, to sit and think about the number. I saw Bicknell last week was like 220 they built this year, and then the huge machine that they've built. And even just to sit back and think about the amount of just ordering material and getting material through the building for 200 race cars is pretty big idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you have machine envy then for that. Yes. But no.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see where things go.
Yeah.
Right now we're doing well enough that
Right.
we were able to leave our engineering jobs and we're down there doing our thing and enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, that's it. And there was somebody I did somewhere put on I tried to get Steve Barrick to do a piece on you guys for Area Auto over the winter months. I said, no, it's not quite. But so far he hasn't given me a call. But I did see somewhere, and you guys have been doing a great job, by the way. I don't know who has the time to do all your Facebook stuff and all your pictures and stuff. Maybe Eric in his spare moments runs around with a camera. I don't know. He's not doing anything.
No, it's actually another. We're a close group of guys, and it's actually another one, another group, friend that grew up working on the race cars with Maynard when we all worked together.
Oh, okay.
He has some spare time, so it's our friend Chad O'Fiera. He's handling all of our Facebook stuff. He's doing a great job with it.
He is. So there was a little synopsis there. But I don't think a lot of folks out there, certainly listeners, to the show really realize what you and Kyle, Eric was there kind of building this whole thing while you guys were working a real job, I guess you could say. But now you're back.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. There's probably days that he wishes he was by himself again, probably. But
yeah, I'm sure.
But basically, you guys had some great. Both you and Kyle Hoffman, the other part of the whole deal, had great jobs with GE, and just said, nah, we want to build race stuff for a living. And I'm sure that I don't know, your dad and mom are all race people, so they probably didn't bat an eye too much, but I have heard from other sources that Kyle.
There was definitely a lot of people that thought we were crazy.
Okay, you said yeah. But
I challenge them to go sit at a desk and work an engineering job every day for a week.
Right. Yes. Yeah. There's one thing about making good money, and there's another thing about loving your job, and it sounds like you guys are doing that. And but so have you been pretty satisfied though with the so far the response that the racers have given you? I mean, you guys have been selling parts.
I tell you, I mean, how can you beat Jeremy Wilder last night, racing with Matt Shepard? I mean, that Super Dirt Series race last night. I mean, looking through that running order, with .04, Matt Shepard beat him by. I mean, that's a huge win for us, and it's not second place, but I consider that for DeCant, that's a great finish.
Well, yeah, I mean, for guys, basically, you didn't. You play around, like you said, a year or two ago, you had one or two chassis here, but just to really come on the scene here the way you have, it's been great. I know I was a Northeast fan. I was feeling pretty good about myself or about our racers up here when I went down to Bridgeport and saw Adam pull a win off down there, and he's been very competitive wherever he's gone. And like I say, I know. If you quit,
and then add that win from Orange County last week. I don't think I've seen. I mean, that was. I've never seen a beating that bad ever.
Right? Yeah. Especially down there. And I know that Stewie was a regular down there, and he looked better down there than he ever did when he was a regular. So, and that place is going to be a great racetrack again. We're going to make Orange County great again, I guess. It's like anything else. You throw enough money at it, you're going to have some positive results. That's for sure. Pete, unfortunately, doesn't have that kind of money to throw at Fonda, but it's still great to get the Fonda every week. And Pete, overall, I mean, forget about the internet because we all know both sides of that whole story. It's good. Yeah. Just as a dumb fan going every week, the 50-50s are better than they were before you came. I would think obviously everybody wants to be better and do more things and have full pits and full grandstands and whatever. But we're in a tough age. We know that. But what would you give yourself as a promoter, say now going in third year? A B, a C, a what?
Probably a C.
A C, okay. That's fair enough, yep. And working towards that.
I got a lot of people out there that just don't like, the fact that we're at Fonda Speedway. And, hey, it is what it is.
Yep.
We're trying to do the best we can for the fans and for the racers. And I mean, we pay $2,400 for a modified feature. Well, who else is paying more than that right now? Maybe Outlaw. That's it.
Yeah, and that was
$250 to take the green too.
We're at $275 to take the green.
Okay.
In the modified feature.
Okay.
Okay, so
yep.
We pay out a lot. Our modified purse is $12,000 a week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We pay out a lot compared to other tracks.
Well, I know that's a discussion. That's a discussion we got right with Tim Fuller last week. That's what he said. He said, Pete gets it. And he says, and we had to talk about the small blocks and Utica, Rome, and Fulton. And Dave, you can jump in on this because you're part of. Well, you always were, but now a real part of it because your life depends on it here. The racing around, the switching to 358s, and I know that. I don't know. I'm sure he does. Was that a small block that Stewie had in at Orange County, or was that a big block?
That's a Deo small blocks. That's a whole
Deo.
different game. But
Yeah,
even those,
okay,
even
yeah.
those are,
Right. Yes.
even those motors are, $20,000 less than a big block.
They are 20. Okay. So we were talking with
But
Fuller.
less than what a new big block's going.
Okay. Because we were talking with Fuller last week, and
Yep.
I was.
Here's the thing. Even with
Go ahead.
Mr. Fuller said the same thing.
Yep.
You can buy. We're the only place in the country that runs big block engines. That's why they cost so much money, because where else? No one else in the country runs them.
Okay.
If we ran the same motor as a dirt late model, you could buy any dirt late model motor, brand new, any dirt late model for $38,000. You can pick them up used. Rocket had them on their website, 4 of them last week for $20,000.
Mhm.
And make almost the same horsepower.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know?
So why don't we do that then? I guess it's a dumb question.
Because the guys that are holding on to that have the big blocks right now don't want to let them go.
Okay.
If you had one, you wouldn't want to change the rules either.
Oh no. But I know we've talked about it. Yeah.
But you see,
Because
car counts are dying everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, it's become modified's become a millionaire sport, and if you don't have the right engine combination, you might as well not be in the class.
Okay, but Fuller was saying, and I thought too. I think we talked to Larry White last year from a Kevlar small block. That obviously that's what Larry won with on Saturday night at Fulton. I thought Larry was talking 28,000 for that, and I know guys that are paying what 38. So I thought there was like a $10,000 difference. You're saying it's double that.
For what? For a big
For
block?
a big block, compared to a full out like Larry's had.
Well, I was talking
in the-
about actual
okay.
World of Outlaw late models. small
Okay.
block.
Oh yes, yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
I think 28,000 for the best you can get small block right now. And I'm not saying that that's affordable, but that's a lot better than 54,000. And then
Okay.
I like seeing this. The W16 and the non-ported class. It seems to be the clouds building and working this way to the east. And I mean, eventually something's got either the class is going to die and fall out because no one can afford big blocks anymore, or it's gonna just take over.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's going to happen eventually is the big blocks are just going to become a traveling class, and that's going to be.
But they don't even have a traveling class now. That's the Super Dirt Series. What is there? 8 guys that follow it?
Yep. Well, they have 12. 12. Yeah.
Maybe. All right, 12. Okay.
I got you.
Compared to the days of when Donnelly had it, it's not even.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I agree with that. I mean, the cost of these motors and the specialized heads and everything else that are on these motors, is definitely killing the big block modified. If they would just turn back the hands of times, they had no problem saying, okay, everybody's going to be on a Hans device. Okay, Why don't they just say, okay, everybody's back on 23-degree heads, and take $25,000 right off the top of a big block?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because
they won't do that though.
No,
I'm a member of Dirt Car, and that's all I'm going to say.
No, I understand.
But
yep.
They could just as easily say.
Go ahead, Dave.
I mean, I look at it this way, right? Like Kyle's not racing Lebanon Valley this year, but if you take a look can you imagine to think about as an everyday worker, even a guy or me as an engineer that went to work every day, and you wanted to race modified at Lebanon Valley, because one motor's not going to do it, so you got to have at least 2.
Right.
Yep.
And then you buy tire and fuel bill. You need $125,000 just to race a year at Lebanon Valley, or any other, any
just for motors.
Just for motors.
Yeah, just for motors. Yes.
So that's why to me, the model it's a dying class, because you've eliminated an everyday guy and not that every person deserves to be in the modified, but you've eliminated it's gone the NASCAR path. You've eliminated the everyday guy to show up and I'm going to race. It's not talent anymore. It's whoever can afford the right motors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
With the exception of
Whoever's got
Stewie,
the biggest line on there.
Yeah, I think Stewie could probably win with a 602, but if
he's saving that for the end of the year.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Or Devil's Dole. Yep. That would be a good $10,000 right there.
I think he's going to take Ray's car.
Yeah, he could do that as well. But Dave, so you weren't afraid if we went to the W16s, your car, have you found, well, now you
I would be out of Sportsman if we went to W16. I would finally be able. I would move out. I would be able to get out of the Sportsman. Right now,
Okay.
to make a jump from Sport, even a Honda. If you look at the field of Honda, I mean, the brand new CC motor Fuller has, Sue's Ability Kid, Josh has got Kevlar motors. It's you need to have a good motor at Honda to be super competitive. And
the thing was, and you know that's a fact because look at the difference it made in Josh Hoensfort when they bought their.
Oh yeah, Kevlar.
Instantly. So that proves it right there. It's the drivability of that motor or that engine combination is what you have to have if you want to be competitive in the big block game. You know, and
Right.
It's sad to say, but how do you change it? I mean, like I said, I go back. This should have stopped years ago when the first 18-degree head pulled into Syracuse for inspection, and Mr. Denny let it go through.
Mm-hmm.
But he
Right,
didn't.
yeah.
He let it go through. And this is where we are now. So, we have Mr. Denny to blame for this whole ball of wax that we have right now. And
well, to quote Bob McCready, who I had a chance to talk to last week, the dumbest man in the sport. But anyway,
the problem is what do you do? If you last man standing with a big block as a boat motor, because you can't sell it anymore.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. And
he's got a good truck motor.
There are a few of those on the second dog actually, so Dave, I want to be a devil's advocate. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But I have already heard, and I'm just a dumb guy who watches races. I don't know all this technical stuff, but I'm told, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the W16 right now they're able to keep them somewhat similar. But what's to keep the W16 from blowing up like the big blocks? They said if you keep it to one builder, he won't be able to keep up with the demand to start with, and there's a part. Supposedly, there's a part shortage already on him. So I don't know.
Well,
go ahead.
I sat with Kenny Schrader and Wenger right out at PRI this year.
Okay.
And Schrader's wants to take the W16 on. He owns some series races.
Yep.
And he wants to make that his series motor. And Carl said there was no shortage of parts.
Okay.
And he could do it. So, and that was right. He sat right there in his wheelchair, and we're right there, and those are words right out of his mouth.
Yep.
When I talk with even Brody, because they have a lot of experience with this motor at Airborne.
Yep.
Every time that they've tried to take this motor and cheat it up, they've lost power.
Okay.
Anytime because it's already the most efficient it can be. It's already at its most efficient.
Okay.
I mean the head. You can't do anything else to the heads. They're right out to the max they can do to the heads.
Okay.
So, and that's where our problems are with the big blocks right now is the head and intake combination. And it's not only that, the heads need a special piston, and it's a whole combination that drives the cost of the big blocks to where they are today. And
we're talking about the drivers coming back.
Yep.
Just for instance, I was coming across I picked up my kids from school last week, and I ran into Mike Fusco. There's a guy who ran Honda for years.
Yep.
We were talking. He goes, man, if they went W16 or if they brought a spec small block, he goes, I would be back racing tomorrow. And I know that he's one of many that would do that.
And we tried to gain the interest of the in the 358 class, but nobody wants to jump. They don't want to jump from sportsman, and they don't want to come back from big blocks. So it's like a catch-22. What do you do with this class to get it going?
Right.
So
you don't want to add another class to your 9.
Right.
No.
Right.
So as it is now, we have one W16 running in there. I let them run at 2,300 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
We got to start getting the class to build. We got to start getting drivers to bite onto these motors. That it's a good solution. And
well, I mean, you look at that. That's how they got rid of the ported head small blocks. I mean, Jack Lehner was running a steel head ported small block at the Super Dirt Series last night.
Yep.
He had to weigh 2650. Absolutely kills the motor.
Okay.
That's why you can get. Eventually, you just got to phase it out.
Okay, and that's what they did with the pro stocks too. And they just made them weigh, like 500 pounds more than the 602s, and that, we got there.
It'll be interesting to see how you and Fulton make out. Seeing how they do with the 38s. It doesn't seem like they're hurting yet.
Well, they had about 16 cars, which is not bad. Basically starting a new class. I mean, they had, but you got guys like Larry and Pat and all the guys that got Kevlars. So you're still talking 30 compared to the Wanger, which is what, 15.
Yeah,
something like that.
13.
13. Okay. So I guess Pete, that's what you got to do. Okay, we're gonna have a W16 class,
right.
And Dave, you better be there.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
Dave's going to be the dealer for him.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. But so you don't think there's an issue with keeping the W16 where it's at without, I mean, racers are always going to find something. But that brings
last night. I mean, that seemed pretty even last night. It was W60. That was a home-built motor that Jeremy Wilder had. It's a
right.
home-built, non-ported motor versus the W16. They were pretty even.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. And Pete just brought up a point too. We talk about light. Okay, so if you make the guys with the W16s, they can weigh a lot less. Can you build a car that's safe, that light? Or are you already now, and actually you're adding weight now?
They're already built that way.
Okay.
I feel more unsafe when a guy's bolting 250 pounds of lead on his car
right.
than I do if you let him run lighter. If the car ever got into a violent flip and it starts shedding parts, the weights are going to be the first things to go. And, being that the rules say the weights are supposed to be confined to the insides of the cage, that only means that the driver's going to be like a BB in a boxcar there, and he's going to have the weights flipping around in there with him.
Oh yeah.
And I would much rather see lower the weights on the cars, and not have to bolt on as much weight.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll watch guys bolt on a 25-pound chunk of lead because
right.
they don't want to put 3 extra gallons in their cell.
Right.
But
so should we raise?
I know,
should we raise the weight? Dave, again, being you're the engineer, you build these things. You basically build these as light as you can, so then you can, in order to make weight, you can add weight to them, or you can put a big block in it, and you don't have to add any weight. Or
that's yeah. I mean, you build them as light as you can, so you can put the weight where you want them.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's not a lot of room. I mean, if you wanted to really go crazy, you could lighten them up some more. I think Bicknell's probably the lightest of all of them so far.
Okay.
But
you, as a car builder, you can't feel safe putting 200 or 300 pounds of lead on a car after you're all done.
I don't. When we go to the sportsman class,
yep.
the sportsman class is the worst because you got all these young kids that are 120 pounds, and then go to the dirt series is 2450. Every one of those cars has 200 pounds of weight bolted on them.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
So
should dirt come up and say the frame by itself has got to weigh so much and raise that up, Dave, or no?
I don't think we need any. I don't think we need any more rules.
Okay.
So we're going on about 2 inches of rule book now.
Right.
I'm looking at. We were looking this week at some more rules, and then I think we will have a seat at the rules meeting this year. But there's stuff in there that just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, I know the pro stocks are kind of going through that whole deal too. Well, it's great. Oh my goodness, I'll get fired from my job. I gotta go.
Okay.
Pete, thanks so much, and Dave as well. I know we'll be talking to Dave again, that's for sure. Pete,
Sure.
Anything you want to say to the fan? I know, like I say, if you read certain internet stuff from time to time, you just go crazy. Anyway, but things are a lot better at Fonda than it looks like if you just all you do is look on the internet, because there's obviously you're not a stupid man. You would not be there the third year if you were losing money. That's for sure. I mean, or not losing much.
It's the same people that complain or voice their opinion. It's the same group.
Yeah.
And you know,
well, that's what I tell her.
People.
That's what I tell everybody. Pete, sorry to jump on you, but I'm old.
Sure.
I'm older than you and Dave put together.
Yeah.
And I said, back in the day, Jim Gage, he was no good. The companies, both Ralph and excuse me, Ronnie, they didn't know what the hell they were doing, and I always got a joke out of I mean, I enjoyed the conversations with Ralph Company and his fans. Ralph would argue with the guys right there at Front Stretch. It was entertaining. But
some of the best races I ever seen were when Ronnie and Ralph were there.
Right. and when and then when you're gone, much like Rich Glusha, I mean, Rick was there 16 years, and there was 16 years. Oh, this was his last year. He's not doing this right. And then when Matty D took over, this is going to work. Well, no, geez, Rick, did this better. That was better, So give yourself time. When you're an old man sitting in your chair somewhere, they'll say, Jesus, Pete, he did do a pretty damn good job. So
we're just trying. We try and preserve a little bit of Fonda too, and
right.
We got people that work really hard in the museum, and we're trying to add people to the Hall of Fame, and certainly we want to add some of them that are still left with us before they pass.
Yep.
We want to get them in the record books and stuff, and because they're all getting older, and they were all part of the history of Fonda, and preserving that history is something we want to do too.
Yeah. Well, that Hall of Fame deal that you guys have now with David and just the other guy, I keep forgetting his name.
They do an awesome job.
They do it's everybody I've talked to said that's one of the best things that's happened since you've been there is Hall of Fame.
It's not only Jackie and David Late, but we got Joey Oxitz on the board. I've got Ray Halgus on there, and Buck Gasner sits on the committee there, as well as George Smith, and we've got. There's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge of racing that you wouldn't even think when you look at them. But I talk with Ray Halgus, and he's like an encyclopedia at Fonda because there's a lot of facts he just don't forget. And,
right. Yep.
And stuff, and and those are the kind of people we need to remember some of the history so we can get it recorded before it goes away forever.
Okay. And anything other? I say we've talked about the big shows. A couple of them.
Sprint cars coming, Memorial Day weekend, which is going to be a good show. We got the ESS coming back, and they're coming back twice this year, and that's going to be an awesome show. And the Jack race is something I'm looking forward to, seeing who gets to take that guaranteed 12th spot. 12th spot up at Syracuse,
That was great that you were able to get that for Fonda Speedway.
Yeah, that's what happens when you whine a little bit sometimes. I said, how can Weed Sport get 3 and I get 1?
Yeah. Well, he's worth a few more dollars. That's probably the answer there. But
see how that goes?
Yeah. but no.
Yeah, it's we're just looking forward to that, and then our big weekend at the end of the year is going to be special. I mean, we've got dirt car sportsman series races on both Friday and Saturday. So it'll be a good show for the fans and everything. And, we got a band again this year booked for the Friday night. And so hopefully it'll be pretty cool.
All right. And I say, now 3 years in, things are starting to run like a well-oiled machine. Like say you're working on it, and the speed of the night is a big deal. And you brought up a great point. It's a bigger racetrack. It takes longer to do everything. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's one thing that people say. Why they go to Albany, Saratoga a lot is because it's in and out. It's today's age, and you guys do as best as you can. And I say just.
Really.
Tighten it up a little bit, and it's
Yeah, the outside of Malta is still
right
smaller than the inside of Fonda.
Right.
But I gotta get running too. Again, congratulations to Dave on his win this weekend, and congratulations to Stewie on a he did an awesome job this week in Kansas, I thought.
Yeah, we all were about falling
with
off
his
our
truck.
seats.
I mean,
We thought he was going to pull that one
yeah.
off there for a while.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he did an awesome job, I thought, at that. And
Yep.
I mean, he got, a lot of talent and a lot of money in front of him.
Yep. Well, that's what
they
his
don't
old.
have a lot of money, but
Yeah. Well, that's his one of his first owners, Tad Park
Yeah.
said, he said this kid needs somebody with some money and he's going to go far. And he says, I will never stand in his way. So if he gets an offer, and pretty much
Yep.
that's what happened. And yeah, it's great. Now, like I say, and it's not just because he goes off and has a good time during the week either. The kid is in the shop 24/7. They're doing something.
oh yeah,
He
Yep.
makes Jess go make T-shirts, and he works on the race cars. So.
but
yeah.
anyways,
okay.
I thank you for having me on, and
No problem.
We'll see you at the races.
Oh, definitely. We will touch base with you, I'm sure, throughout the year. Thanks again, Pete, for all you do at Fonda
All right.
Speedway. Thank you.
All right, Ed. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Good night. All right, we're gone. We're late. See ya next week. And no, Randy Hoteling, I will not sponsor you. Is that right? He needs it. He said he would try, but Randy also, and you know Randy well, Dave. CJ tried to change this all 35 years ago, and and here we are. We're still in the same boat, but it sounds like you and Pete actually are on the same page with this W16. You really, again, being with the industry, you've talked to people that you really think this thing will work, and it's basically just because of the upper echelon guys right now. And I'm not saying Mr. Larson because he only does, what Stewie tells him, I think, as far as the modified end of it goes. But he loves racing, and it's great to have a guy like him. We need a few more guys like him that would willing to put money into our end of the sport. That's for sure. But you feel confident though that if dirt came down someday, or even if Fonda said, okay, we're going to run a W16 class and eliminate the other ones. The only caveat is, like Fuller was talking about, if it go down, are they going to drop the purse?
Yeah, I don't know. Mr. Malta did it for years with 358.
Yep. Would that keep you from not doing it? If we're going to run a modified as the W16, it's going to cost you, half or less than half of what a big block. We're going to cut our purse in half as well.
Well, we lost the guy to the answer on that, but I still think the purses, the purses are a huge part of it.
Okay.
And with things coming next year, and who knows, some new stuff coming down in Orange County, it could be a whole new year, a whole new thing next year.
So you think one racetrack, like Orange County, can push the issue and make the rest of the tracks, come up to their standards?
Who knows what they're gonna do? But
yeah.
I want to see what happens with Fulton and Utica, and it seems like as those classes grow like the crate class grew, it's just gonna spread and take over. Because I'm sorry, but the modified as it is now, it's not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think there's anybody that'll disagree with you on that. But I'm just saying, the guys like Fuller who do it for a living, and granted, there's only a few of them. Him and Brett, and obviously Stewie, that do this for a living. They don't like the idea.
I don't see why the purse would have to go down.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. Okay, because that's what a lot of guys are saying. That's why these. Well, obviously Utica's, it's not a big secret. They've changed, hands a couple different times here in the last few years, and they're hurting for cars. And so, they really, I'm not saying they didn't have a choice, but they said, well, okay, let's try this. Fulton, on the other hand, had gotten to the point where they were building a fan base. I know we talked to Corey Reed about this a couple years ago when they first started it. And now they had so many sportsmen that, the back gate, that doesn't carry the whole show, that's for sure. But if every sportsman there, and they got 65 to 68 every week, they bring 4 or 5 people with them, that'll take care of the other end of the spectrum too. And they can get away with paying them less because the cars are worth less. But So you know, I know. I saw. Have you and
They
Stuart?
get 65 cars, and they've got the worst sportsman purse of any place we go to.
There you go. So there doesn't seem to be a correlation there somehow or other. I'm sure you and Stuart have this discussion, or maybe you haven't. But how's he feel? Well, obviously, he has a big block. That's what he loves to race, and he's always. Do you ever think the day if it
I would
comes?
say any person you have this discussion with that has the engine already is pretty happy where they're at.
Okay, that's fair enough. But do you ever foresee the day that you know him pretty well now, been working with him for these last 3-4 years anyway, that if it came down to, okay, everybody's going to run W16s, I mean, obviously they won't have a choice, either that or quit, that Stewie would do that.
Oh, why not? I mean, the fastest guys are still going to be the fastest guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Nothing's going to change.
It's just the idea
if anything, look at you last night. Matt Shepard, all the fastest guys still rose to the top, and it was a great show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you brought someone there, you couldn't tell the difference if it was a big block or a small block.
Right. Yeah, I think the average fan can't tell the difference between a 16-second lap or an 18 or a 20-second lap as far as that. All they want to do is see you guys, like you said earlier, is be able to pass guys, and that's the whole thing. Will they be able to? If everybody's got the same motor, obviously now they don't. The more money, the more power. But you think that the racing will still be okay? I know the 602s, your class, went through. The first year or so, it was kind of where you finish where you started. And, I kind of look on Speed Hive now to watch the lap charts on some of these races, and you watch the sportsmen, there's a lot of straight lines there.
Sure.
Would that be the same thing with the W16 or no?
Hey, I put it back on the track promoters at that point. I mean, you got to put a surface. I mean, it's an entertainment sport, and I mean you got to put a surface together that promotes racing.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, fair enough. Yep. Well, you are the true engineer. You got all this stuff figured out.
Who knows?
Yeah. But again, like Pete said, congratulations on your first win of the season. I'm sure there's going to be more. I'm sure there's going to be a few over at Albany Saratoga. Sure. That's for damn sure. And I know you're kind of caught in a tough place there because you're trying to prove your race cars by doing different things to make them better, and also. If people see you finishing 5th and 6th and 7th instead of 1st or 2nd or 3rd just because you're playing around, they're gonna say, geez, those DKMs are no good. So it's got.
Yeah, we got enough of them out there now.
Yeah, now
I can still mess around.
Now you can play around. Yeah. So again, well, the Constantino family and has always been an icon around here, and I know your mom and dad are both. Proud of you guys, and I'm sure they probably didn't think you were crazy. I don't think. Maybe not. Kyle's.
I don't know.
Kyle's folks, on the other hand, I know people on that other side, and I think they thought he might have been, but I think they're changing their mind now. I think they figure you kids are doing very, very well, and proud of you on both sides. So, like I say, we'll be touching base with you throughout the year and keep watching. Anybody wants to know anything about DKM, just go on their website. They have a great website. You can see exactly what they do. There's nothing hidden. You show everybody.
Right. Well,
I'm sure there's a few hidden moments when the lights go off, but we won't talk about those. But
sure.
So, I missed it. I didn't see it. I didn't see a picture. What hat did you have on last night?
Oh, I didn't have anything yet.
So you're going.
We're working our way through it. It's still early in the year. Probably not going to do as many this year. We're going to go for quality this year.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. Well, I'm sure you can whip something up on your computer and build a DKM and you'll be all set. All right, Dave. Thanks again.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Night now. Okay. Well, we got off to a little shaky start with Crazy Kenny there working on his race car instead of talking to me, but that's fine. It all worked out. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Pete and Dave Constantino. If you missed any of this, probably figured that's part of your life you'll never get back. But anyway, if you didn't, you can always go to Dirt Track Racing network and scroll around there. You'll find Wheel People with Ed Lamberton there somewhere. Probably next week I'm going to get our engineer here, our chief engineer and bottle washer here, to give me a list of all these different things you can actually do with us. I have no idea. I just come here and act stupid and have a good time and have fun talking to you people. So we'll be back next week, I think, if the wife will let me in here. If I don't get down there soon, I won't. Keep it between the boards. Don't forget to get the races. Hopefully Mother Nature will cooperate here. We'll get Friday, Saturday, and Sundays. We have 2 Sunday tracks, 2 Saturday tracks, and 1 Friday track. And it won't be long that our good friend Mike Bruno will be starting Devil's Bowl over there. We'll get him on too as well. But hopefully next week we'll get the other local promoters on from Glen Ridge Motorsports Park, Ray Severn and Mike Perillo. They are doing as much as they can to make the things on the hill go well. And we'll talk to them. Plus Peter Britton, he said he would be with us next week after getting through all this craziness this week. Congratulations to him on 2 wins this weekend. We'll be talking to Pete Britton next week. And we'll probably find 1 or 2 others. Until then, keep it between the boards. We'll see you at the races. We're out of here.